Friends, fans, and fine folk, grab your drinks and snacks and come down to the campfire for this short rest with me and my friend Andrew. Magebrush, how you doing? How are you doing? You having a good day?
Yeah, man. It's good to be a Friday after this week at work.
Yes, right? Or a Saturday here, leading to some confusion between the two of us. Yeah, because you're Pacific Coast, yes?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we're
you're
literally just separated
20.
by the Pacific Ocean and the dateline. And
Yeah,
is it
so
a
it's
3 hour different at the moment? I'm currently at
I'm
quarter past 10 in the morning.
right, and it's quarter past 2 in the afternoon
Right, so
here.
there's a 4 hour difference. Yeah, almost insane that we're like almost entirely a day apart. Bloody time zones,
Yeah,
crazy. All right, well, it's good to have you on anyway. I'm glad that you could still make it even after we worked out the confusion of the times. It's really good to have you
all
here.
good.
And it was
Thanks,
really good
man.
to bump into you at Gen Con as well. I'm glad we got a chance to meet
Yeah,
up in person. Because
yeah.
it's been a while since we actually met. We met on Ashland's thing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Art
Yeah,
of Adventure.
yes, sir. Yeah, you ran the Halloween adventure a couple of years ago,
Yeah, I
and
did
then
a trick or treaty thing. That was fun.
yeah, yeah, where I tried not to be like spoiler because I painted the big
Yeah, that's
big
right.
bad for it. I
That's right. You'd
painted it.
painted the mini that I was going to use as the big bat,
So
and so
I
you
was
knew what
like,
was going up, but you didn't know what the
so I was like,
context was going to be
no, no, and I try real
until you
hard.
walked into a garden and saw a giant pumpkin hanging off a tree or something. I was like, I think I know what's
Yeah, I was like,
coming.
yeah, I'm like, I figure I know what's coming, but like, I try real hard not to meta. Like,
Yeah, you did great.
yeah, I try real hard. Like, even I think Ashley gets annoyed at me sometimes, because even in like the homebrew game that we play at her house, if it's somebody else's thing going on where I'm not in the room, like my character's not in the room,
Yeah.
I just won't pay attention and I'll like doodle or something just because I don't want the information in
Yeah,
my
yeah,
head.
yeah, yeah. No, I find the same. Like often people will come back from like a scouting mission. They've like split the party and blah blah blah, and then they'll come back and be like, "All right, well I don't need to repeat all of that." And I'll be like, "No, please do, because I wasn't listening. Like,
Yeah,
if you were doing
yeah,
something else, then I was using that time to finally go over my notes or whatever, because I just don't have time usually. I actually enjoy a
yeah.
split party when I'm as a player, because then I get a chance to actually look at my notes and go, "What am I meant to be writing about? I haven't taken notes in 3 sessions." I don't know what spells I prepared today, so now I'm gonna do that. And then they come back
Right.
and they're like, "Oh my god, can you believe it?" I'm like, "No, I can't believe it. What are we believing? What was the big reveal? Tell me
Yeah,
again
because
in
like
character."
we just split trying to get assistance from different people within the town, and I was trying to get assistance from this. I play an artificer, so there's like this whole artificer school that I was trying to get help from, and I was asking for duplicate of what the other people were asking for because I knew they had gotten approval, so I didn't have to, but I'm
Right.
still asking because we're not mind linked or
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
no
yeah,
message
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
anything. So I'm just assuming that nothing has happened. So I still need all them resources. And then,
That's always the best.
just
It's always the best when you've got like a split party that know that they've got to do a particular task, and then none of them are metagamers, and so like so one guy will go and do the task, but he'll do it without telling anybody else. So then he goes off, and somebody else goes and does the task, and everybody at the table's knowing like, oh god, no, but they're like, what else can we do? We all know we've got to do this particular task, and
yeah. So if you
they
ever
end up
play a game
getting
with me and I'm just sitting there like doodling, it's and because my character's not in the room,
yeah.
I'm there, but I'm not trying to meta.
Yeah, I've had people be like, "All right, throughout the whole time when I'm doing the scouting mission, I'm gonna be casting message every 6 seconds to let you know what's happening." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll stay
Yeah,
involved. I'll stay up to date with what's going on."
yeah, totally different. If that's a thing, then I am.
Then you're in it.
Yes,
Yeah.
please give me all
So
the things.
how did we come to meet for Ashland's thing? I don't even remember how I got involved with that. I think she might have just found me and reached out and said, "Do you want to do this Halloween thing?" And I was like, "Sure." But it was a lot of fun. I imagine you've known Ashland for a while now. Dollar Store DM.
Yeah, yeah, I've known her for for a few years now.
Do you know if she ever put
It,
the that particular Halloween one shot up anywhere? Could people go and watch it?
I think it's up on her YouTube. If you go to Dollar Store DM, her profile on Instagram, it should be up on her YouTube. She was pretty good for a while about getting all of the things up onto the interwebs.
So if you guys want to see the Halloween one shot that I ran, where I met Andrew for the first time, and it was very good. Like if I say so myself, I really enjoyed it as a premise.
Yeah,
It was like a trick or treating kind of a kiddie horror kind of story, and it was a lot of fun to
yeah.
run. So go check
I
out Dollar
dressed
Store
up as
DM as well.
a I dressed up as a faux medieval Joker,
Yes,
and
that's right.
I just remembered I was like, I want to add toilet paper to my crossbow, right? Like a
Yeah,
TP launcher.
TP gun. Yeah,
It's all I remember
yeah, that was
was
good, man.
the TP gun to like ruin this person's house.
And that
Because
was years ago, and then
yeah,
we didn't, and then we finally got a chance this year to meet up in person at Gen Con, and you were at the Eldritch Foundry booth, right?
yep, yep. They're my side gig is working for Eldritch Foundry.
So let's, for people who are watching and don't know who the hell you are, let's start with just a basic. Oh, actually, before we start with that, but I like to start with setting up the short rest, because if we're having a short rest, it means we're, by definition, we're on some sort of a quest that we needed a break from, right? What quest are we on that needed this short rest in the first place?
Let's let's say that we had just acquired a bunch of treasure and had gone through the ringer, and before we have to return these treasures to the rightful owner, we were just like, holy shit, that was a lot. I need a pint.
Yeah, I think so, and I think like we have that problem that often just gets hand waved in D&D of like you find a bunch of treasure and the DM just tells you because it's on their notes. They're just like, oh, you find 732 platinum pieces, 642 gold, and I'm like, what is my character Rain Man? How did I just look at it and I know how much it is? I need at least a half an hour to count this shit and see how much there actually is. Like that's just hand waved often, like it is a video game. You pick it up and it goes blink, 732 platinum. Like no, that's gonna take me time to count.
Yeah,
And
especially if it's like 700 pieces.
yeah, exactly. And
It's
so
like,
yeah,
here,
we're
mimic that real quick for folks at home. Go grab like at least like go make $1 worth in pennies and see how long it takes you to count that. That's 100, and then multiply that by like 10 or 7 if you get 700 pieces.
I
Like
am.
it'll be a
So,
while.
so I think we've just recovered a bunch of treasure. Where we've headed back to the bar. We're sitting in a corner having a drink and trying to surreptitiously count all the stuff without getting robbed by someone, without getting mugged by someone who realizes how much money we've got. What are we eating and drinking on this short rest? Both in real life and fantasy wise. I'm just drinking water, real life.
I mean, that's what I'm doing too. I've been trying to watch what I eat
Yeah.
and drink. I cut
Gotta be
soda
healthy.
cold turkey.
Oh, that must be difficult.
Yeah, especially when I still have a full case of Pepsi sitting
Oh
in my
no.
fridge. So it just like taunts me every
Why
time I
would you
open my
do that at
fridge.
that time? You gotta cut it cold turkey once you're out, and then you can't buy anymore, and it's easier. No, you wanted to play on hard mode.
Yeah. Yeah, play on hard mode. Yeah. So in fantasy world, I would get the biggest thing of beer I could possibly get.
Yeah,
Or maybe some spirits. I'm a
your,
gin and
your
tonic guy in real
character.
life.
Does your character usually go for a big old ale or something when you go to a tavern?
Yeah, because I feel like in D&D that's like the most common thing. I don't feel like you go into many taverns and they have
And be
cocktails
like, I'll
on
have
the
a
menu.
cosmopolitan, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Depends though. If I'm playing like a fancy elf, there's one character I've got that's an elven bard, and I kind of based him on like Ziggy Stardust kind of a personality. And I was like, yeah,
Nice.
he definitely doesn't drink ale and mead. Like he walks in or they walk in and they're like, what's the most colourful drink you've got? And I'll have that. And sometimes that's just mead. They're like, it's kind of got a yellow, yeah, palish yellow tint. And I'm like, all right.
That's funny. Yeah, mead
So
or right. So yeah, I'd probably do
with
that and like some sort of hearty meal, like a heavier meal, because I'd probably be just tired and just want comfort food. Like
Yeah.
that was
What do you
rough.
when you're running games? Do you have like a go-to food for menus, taverns, and things? Like, do you think about particular types of food that are on your tavern menus?
I do.
That can be an exercise in improvisation that people aren't often ready for. When somebody goes, "Oh, let's go to the tavern and get a meal. What's on the menu?" and you have to just improvise an entire menu that would be appropriate for tavern food at this time of season and this part of the year. And
No, see, I'm that psychopath that pre-thinks all that stuff out. I have for my homebrew game, I actually made a book, almost like a 5e book that I gave everybody. And then I have like the DM version, and then I have another binder that is just all of the things. So like I
Jeez.
have, yeah, I am that nerd.
You're ready to
Uh,
go.
yeah, because
You
it's
just have
like
to you just
not
have
that
to GM in front of like a big bookshelf full of all these binders. Then somebody's like, "All right, we're going to the tavern." And you're like, "What sort of a tavern? Is it a high quality
yeah.
tavern, a low quality tavern? All right, let me get the right binder."
Oh no, not even that, dude. It's well, what part of town are you going to? Well, we're going to this part of town. Okay, well, there's like three taverns there, and generally I'll do that where there's three. So like there's like the fancy,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the
The mid range,
like
and
the
then
Applebee's, and then like the Waffle House. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
So, and then like each one, and then I do tailor it because of like the different things that are available. Like the nice place is obviously going to have some cocktails or wines. The mid place will probably just have some beers, maybe some nicer lagers, some mead, maybe some low end wine. But then the other place, it's just like you don't know what's in it. You're told it's alcohol,
it's,
but
it's
it
it
could just
smells and
be,
looks roughly like alcohol. It's just a little more viscous than you'd expect. Just like,
yeah, like the flattest of stouts that smells questionable. Or like the one in my town, like the one bar is like right on the dock, so all they have is seafood because it's on the dock.
yeah.
So that just makes sense. But yeah, I'm that
I love
nerd where
doing
I
I
just
love doing that sort of stuff, and just putting something like an extra detail to the food or drink that I'm describing that makes them go, "Why did he describe that?" There's some, and then suddenly you're off to the races with them being like, "We need to investigate it. I'm going to cast detect poison. I'm going to cast this. Is there anybody shady in the bar?" And you're like, I've just bought myself another session of them not actually progressing the plot, just by
yeah.
describing something shady in the bar.
I do cheat a little bit. I use this site I found called Don John. It's like Don
Oh yeah,
John.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
I'll put it
dungeons are
in the I'll
useful.
put it in the chat.
I used to use that for encounter
In the chat.
calculators years ago.
Oh, it was deleted by the
You got
moderator.
got deleted.
It got
One of the mods
deleted.
will give you link permission in a minute, I'm sure.
It's fine, but yeah, there's in generators that will be like here's, and I just keep clicking the menu things until I like stuff. So
Nice.
it's not super time consuming. Oh, thank
Just
you, Lord
realizing
Quinn. I'm assuming it's the one is an I.
Lachlan, yes. Just realised
Oh,
that you should have VIP status, and then I think VIPs get to post links. I don't know how it works. I've been Twitch streaming for several years. I still don't know how it works.
yeah.
just
That's
I just
that's
turn up.
yeah.
I
That's
just
that's
work here.
yeah. Same. Yeah. No, that's one of the sites I use just because like it's one of those mundane things I don't really want to put a lot of brain power into.
Mm,
But I also would rather use my brain to think of other stuff.
other
So if it's
things,
just
yeah.
there, yeah, it's just easier to have it be,
Yeah, that makes sense.
for me at least, it's easier for me to have that written down rather than try to um, improv food.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
You know what I
I've
mean? Like I'd
I've
rather improv some dude in the corner.
yeah, yeah, exactly. On the inside of my screen, because I've got a custom-made DM screen, and on the inside of it, I've just
Ooh.
got an entire table down here that needs revisiting soon. But it does have like how much for food and drink, and it gives me like a rough thing of like if it's a squalid meal, it's this much. If it's a wealthy
Yep.
meal, it's this much. And then I just like all right, then I can just I can say it's whatever, and then if they want specifics on what kind of food it is, I can be like, all right, work with me. That's one of the things I'm happy to put it back on the players and be like, look, this is collaborative storytelling. You tell me what you're ordering.
Right.
And as long as it's not something like, I'm ordering Griffin Heart, and you're in the middle of a desert, I'm like, no, they're not likely to have that. But you might
I
have something
mean,
else.
and then like if the players come to me and they're like, "Hey, oh, I mean, like, oh, like, what would you like to have?" And they're just like, "I want to order this." Okay, yep, that's on
Yeah,
the menu.
yeah,
If it, to your point, if it makes sense. But if they're like, "I just have it so I'm prepared," if they're like, "Well, what is on the menu?" It's like, "Well, we got this, this, this,
yeah.
this, 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 and this." But
I
the fish is going bad, so order soon.
yeah. I was gonna say if you that's another thing I like to do sometimes is like just put things in there that they should pick up on, and if they don't, then there's something problem. Like if they're in the middle of a desert, like 7 days from the nearest coast, and there's fish on the menu, and they don't pick up on that, and like order it anyway. I'm like, all right, con save, because you shouldn't be ordering fish from a desert restaurant. Where the hell are they getting it
Right.
from? Conjure
Right.
conjure food and water spells or something. Anyway, now that we're set up for our short rest in this tavern, ordering questionable food and viscous drinks, where would people know you from? Who are you, and explain yourself, I guess.
Well, I'm a human. That happens when a mommy and a daddy. No. Um, yeah, no. So I am Magebrush. I am on the Instagram primarily because I do a lot of painting of the miniatures and terrain and stuff like that. Um, I have been doing it for a long time now. I did a lot of it for Dollar Store DM's Art of Adventure. I would, if somebody for whatever reason couldn't chip in. So, for those who don't know, the Art of Adventure was like a craft it forward type stream where like the players would then make the things for the next month, and that was part of the deal. But if for whatever reason, sometimes people had like family issues or got real sick
Yeah,
or whatever, like
life
I
gets
would
in
just
the way.
jump in it. Yeah, that things happen. So like I would jump in and cover for those people. But yeah, otherwise you might have seen my stuff going through Eldritch Foundry as of late.
Excellent. So let's talk how you got into it in the first place. Like, where did the name Magebrush come from? When did that come about?
Um, it came about because my friends were getting annoyed of all the miniatures I was putting on my personal account, and they're like, "Dude, we don't care." So
Being forced to split your accounts because your friends don't give a shit about your mini painting. That's very funny.
I mean, it's the truth, man. They're like, "Bro, it's too
You
much."
got you got to stop,
Um,
man.
just make a separate account, and I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I wanted to try to do something fun. I wanted to try to do something that was D&D ish. So and yeah, mini spam basically. So my one friend was using Mage Hand a lot, and I thought it
I
would be kind of funny if it was like just how great would it be as a mini painter? Like, at what DM would it be like? You know what? I'm gonna cast Mage Brush. Go paint all that shit for me.
hell
Like,
yeah.
I'm just gonna sit here and watch cartoons while Mage Hand just
I love that. So Magebrush
does
came
the
about
thing.
as like a specific painting version of Mage Hand. You
Yeah,
conjure Mage
and
Hand,
like,
but it's just a brush and it paints for you. I love
yeah,
that.
wishful
God, I
thinking. So
would
it's kind of a
what I wouldn't give. I've got so many unpainted minis behind me, and it's just not my thing. I was
so
like,
people have a box of shame. I have like two boxes of shame, and then I just keep 3D printing more.
yeah, I had this big thing of unpainted minis behind me, and I'm like, I'll get around to it one day. Maybe I'll try my hand at painting one day. And a friend of mine's a very good mini painter. It's not like his passion; he's just extremely good at it. Like he just cannot play a game with unpainted minis. Like you'll get board games, miniatures games and stuff, and they'll come with all of the unpainted ones, and he just can't play it until they're painted. It's an obsession of his. So even though it's not
Yeah,
like his passion to paint minis, he just has to do it. So he'll sit down and he'll paint them, and he'll paint them incredibly well.
Yeah.
But once they're done, they're done. And so I got him around a couple of times, and we did like painting streams, and I painted a tree ant, nice big mini, but like relatively easy, mostly just browns with some green moss and stuff. And I was like really
Right.
proud of it. Then I had two identical air genies minis, and so he
Hmm.
painted one while I painted the other, and I was looking at him for, for cheating off of his test essentially. And I was like,
Oh
this is
yeah.
pretty good because the genie again a large model. And then more recently, I was
Yeah.
at my girlfriend's place, and she was painting some minis for a game. She runs a channel called Winter's Tales, and she was painting some minis for that. And I started painting my first medium-sized character, just regular guy in armor. And I started painting it, and I
Hmm.
painted up his breastplate, and I painted up something else. And then I went, fuck this. I can't do this shit. This is too small and fiddly, and there's so many parts to him. He's
Yeah.
got like a belt on. I wanted like I'd have to get his belt buckle, and I was like, nah, this is just stressing me out. It's not enjoyable. It's not
Yeah.
relaxing like some people say. Like they just tick on music and kind of go into a meditation, and they just kind of paint and paint. And I was like, nah, I've discovered that's not me.
That's me. Well, so what I would say is like the easiest thing to get you going is those larger minis, right? Because they're especially monsters, because you have a little bit more leeway of
Yeah,
not staying in the lines as much. They're generally bigger, so you can go back and clean up your mistakes easier, and then start weaning yourself down.
get
So like go
smaller
from
and
like
smaller models. Yeah,
yeah,
start with a
well,
big
because a
model
lot
of
of it
just a
is
monster, and then a big model that's like got some more intricate parts, and then a big model of like
yeah,
the genie was pretty good because it did have some intricate parts, but he's a large enough creature himself that even his belt was quite large, and
right. Or
get in there without a
or
single
even just get
hairbrush.
right, or even like different monsters for to help learn different techniques. Like something like when I started a long time ago, owlbear and the the big bug guy.
Oh,
I'm
the Ankeg,
blanking on the name. Not the unkeg, but they're very very similar.
Chul, the Chul, the ones with the tentacles that work for the aboleths.
No,
The Boulet, the Boulette, Berg by
not the
Thrikreen.
not, doesn't matter.
Now it matters.
Umber Hulk. Umber Hulk.
Umber
That's
Hulk, as
usually
soon as you
because
let
of
it
the
go, as soon as you let it go, it's like, ha, I'm here. Umber Hulks are
yeah.
fun.
But because they have, the Umber Hulks have like that big carapace on the back,
Yeah.
and like owl bears have a lot of feathers,
Mm,
those are real nice to learn like a dry brushing technique on because
right.
there's a lot of it,
Right. Yeah.
right? And because it's so much, you can even build up the highlights from the deepest, do your base layer, and then do like your wash, and then do your medium and high, and keep going with the
Right.
dry brush because there is so much of it. And then if you really want with like an owl bear or with the Umbra Hulk, then there are smaller details of like the eyes and like the
Yeah.
little mandibles or the claws, that you can really get in and start like honing in your brush control for the smaller
Mm,
areas.
right.
Once you get that all down, going to a smaller mini is not as daunting of a task at that point.
Yeah. The
You know
thing
what
I
I mean?
found I think least enjoyable about it when I was trying it was like it wasn't the manual dexterity needed because I've got pretty steady hands and I can get like if you give me a small enough brush I can paint whatever I need to paint. But it was the fact that there was just so many different colors needed for this guy. Like he had pants and he had a scabbard and he had a sword which would have had a different hilt and a different cross piece and stuff. And I was like, these should all be different colors. Like his skin should be a different color and his hair should be a different color and his helmet should and his greaves and his boots and I'm like, how much of this can you just say like if it's a mini like the tree ant that had essentially 4 or 5 colors to it, I'm like I can do
Right.
that. I used a main brown for the back. I used a lighter brown for the parts where the back had kind of fallen away, like the top of his head and stuff. And I used a moss for his
Hmm.
beard, and then I think I put some red just for a touch of something. I put some red mushrooms around his ankles or something. And I was like, yeah, four colors, that works. But as soon as I started painting this guy, and I'm like, this is gonna be like 20 different colors throughout him, including like a belt buckle and then a different color for the belt. Because if you make his leather pants the same color as his belt, it doesn't look like he's wearing a belt. And I looked at
Right.
all these, and it was just daunting to see all of these minis laid out on her table. And she was like, "Look, you can pick any of these." And I was like, I don't want to pick any of those. That's too many. I can't possibly know which colors to pick. Like I can only imagine how many colors you actually have like in your collection, but it would be a lot, I imagine, right?
I So let me put it this way. I'm going to be painting at PAX Unplugged the entire weekend at the Eldritch Foundry booth, and I bought me a little case to put my paints in,
Yeah.
and I think it holds 120 bottles, and I will be leaving paint behind.
It's too much choice. I can't do it. Like I find the same when when I was younger and I was doing like Microsoft Paint or something. And I was like painting pictures, and it comes with the first 16 choices of color, and you're like, that's fine. And then when you get older and you're still playing around with Microsoft Paint, and you realize, oh, there's a color wheel picker thing, and you can create any colors. And then as soon as that happened, I was like, oh no, oh no, there's too many colors. I don't know how to pick.
See, I mean, I guess for me, that's not daunting to me because I went through art school. I'm an art director by trade, so like I live in color all day long. It's just so like for me, I'm used to that, especially with like web with hexadecimal. So like
Right.
everything is on the internet. So or on screen rather, not the internet, it's on screen. So like I have millions of options
Yeah.
for on screen. So I don't know. But it's it's all about also picking some core colors and then like building around that. So
Hmm.
like I'm doing a couple of minis now that have a lot of pink and purple in it. So it's because those are such warmer colors, or like the skin tone's also a warmer color, it's kind of balancing between warm and cool colors, but then also keeping colors that complement each other.
Hmm. Right.
If you get a bit of color theory down, it's a lot easier. But also, you don't have to have a billion colors. I have a buddy of mine. He paints really well, and he has like 10 colors. He's good at mixing the colors.
Right.
I am not, which is why I just was like Vallejo game color line, and yes.
Take, oh, yes, please. All of those. I
Which
want.
color would you like? Yes.
Yes. I had this same painter friend of mine. He made me some. Well, he didn't make them. He painted them. Um, some Hero Point tokens with my logo on them.
Oh,
And
that's
then
cool.
the Viva La Dirt League logo on the other side, so that I can give these as like inspiration hero points to the Viva guys, and they can use them and remember that they've actually got them and stuff. And he painted them up for me, and then I had some more recently that don't have the Viva logo but just have my logo and something else that are more collectibles for when I do in-person games with people at like conventions and things, and then they've got something to
Oh,
take
that's
away that's
cool.
like unique to that event. And I had
That's
him paint
cool.
somebody. He's like, I'm out of this paint. Can you go and get it for me? And I was like, sure thing. And he sent me the list. It was Citadel Gold something blah blah blah. And I walked to this gaming store that he told me about, and I walked right up to the desk and was like, hey, I need this paint. And he's like, yeah, it's this one over here. I got it. And then the guy immediately starts with like the upsell and like trying to get me like because he understandably thinks that I'm a mini painter and not just getting this for
Hmm.
a friend. And he goes, oh, you if you want this, then you want this for the highlight, and you'll need this for this, and don't do, blah blah blah. And he's giving me all these tips about like don't spray it when it's humid outside because it won't this and that. And I'm like, dude, I'm getting this on behalf of someone who knows very much what he's doing. You don't need to worry about it. But I was like double parked. I said, "Look, I'll buy whatever you're trying to upsell me because I just want to get out of here." So I just bought an extra like little gold highlight something or other, and I was like, "Hey, my mate can have it as a freebie, as a thank you for painting the things for me
Was
in the first
it?
place."
I assume it was a Warhammer store.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
I
those
think
guys.
it was like a generic gaming store, but it was definitely like the Warhammer side
Uh,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the store. Big
Yeah,
old wall of daunting amounts of paint.
I use a lot of Vallejo model and game color, some mecha line from Vallejo, just because that's what was available to me when I started.
Hmm.
Um, and I tried to branch out, and I just keep coming back to the Vallejo colors. Um, but I do have a lot of Turbo Dork stuff as well. Their stuff's really cool. They have a lot of unique metallics, and I'm a fan of actual metallics.
Hmm.
That and I just I haven't really tried non-metallic metal, but I just look at it and I'm like, I'm just gonna put silver. Thanks. Uh,
I'd imagine they'll have their purpose, right? Obviously, you want to be using a metallic metal if you're painting anything metallic, but surely
yeah.
you're painting like a gloopy ooze. Is that also good with metallic? Like, 'cause it's got like a sheen to it, or do you ever
It
need?
depends on what you're going for. Like I like using the metallics and color shifts for different things. So like I like using color shifts for like magic effects, right? Like there's one where it's like a light blue to dark blue. So I'll throw that on like lightning effect because it
Oh,
has that
okay.
kind of like color shift to it.
Oh, wow, that's
Or
clever.
like I basically am using a if my players are watching cover your ears, basically using like some Tyranids as a homebrew monster, and they live in the like more of like an underdark kind of situation.
Right.
So like for them, I'm using like this purple to blue color shift on the carapace. So it's kind of like because they part of what they do is I stole a little bit from phase spiders, so they can phase in and out.
Ah, yeah.
So it has that little bit of like it just to me personally in the narrative in my head it has a little bit of that magical feel because of how they look,
Yeah.
right? Or like I have another thing where the crystals are growing out of their body, so I have this deep red and a light red metallic just so it has that little bit more of that crystalline
Uh huh.
sheen
Uh
to
huh.
it, So I mean, it depends really on what you're wanting to do, but it's just one of those like your limitation is your imagination. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
some people look at that and they're like, no, don't do that. And I'm just like, but it's mine. So like, not to be full
Like,
Bob
yeah.
Ross, like it's your happy little
Oh,
world.
yeah.
Like do what you
For sure.
want, you
Yeah,
know?
I've got this like the minis that I see painted by my mate. Like I'm always astounded by the level of detail he's got. Like he does a bunch of Star Wars stuff as well. We play Imperial Assault and a couple of other minis games,
Nice.
and he's got like he'll do the lightsaber or whatever, Darth Vader with a lightsaber, and then it looks at first glance like he's just kind of um like misbrushed, I suppose, and like got and just touched some of the parts that he shouldn't have touched, and then you look closer and you're
Hmm.
like, no, that's actually the red glow from the lightsaber because he's making the. And he did I think it's here, yeah, it's this one here. He did a mini for me for one of my home games. This was a character that was playing in one of my home games, and she's a
Oh,
rock.
nice.
She's a rock lady, and then there's these gems at her feet, and this gemstone in her hammer, this mole hammer that's like the heart of a rock golem or something. And the way that he's
Right.
painted it with the glinting of the light off of it makes it look like it's like a translucent gem. And I'm like, how have you
Yeah.
made an opaque plastic look like a translucent gem? It's like actual magic. Jesus, these are getting dusty now. We've been sitting here as we haven't played that game in a long time. But yeah,
Yeah.
it just incredible work. So I can like fully appreciate good mini painting. He's got a
A lot
rancor
of
that he used some hot glue and just like dripped it out. So he's actually got like a dangly piece of drool that's hanging from his mouth.
that's awesome. Yeah, there's another type of glue where people will take it with like a toothpick and wrap it around things, and it's real thick glue, so it'll
Right,
stay, and then they'll paint it to look like blood or something like that.
right.
It can get real crazy, and it depends on what level you want to paint for. Like if you're just painting to get it onto the table,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you don't have to go hyper insane. If you're painting for competition, then yeah,
Yeah,
you need to go a little
yeah,
bit
because
more
yeah,
insane.
they'll the reels and stuff will still pop up in my feed and like living vicariously through people who can actually paint. I'm looking at them and watching them and going like, oh, that's cool. And Instagram thinks I'm a mini painter, but sucker. But yeah, the amount of paint minis and tutorials and stuff that I'll see and I'll be like, I'm never going to do it, but this is amazing to watch other people who are good at what they do.
Yeah.
And often I'll see them and it'll be and people will just be like reminding you. They'll be like, hey, just a reminder, it needs to look good from about a foot away because that's where it is on the table. Like that, you don't need.
Yeah.
Not everybody's
Yeah.
going to be picking up your minis and looking at them like this every time you bring a goblin out. Even though I
Well,
definitely do that when Spidey's playing.
and that's one thing I find weird with Instagram, where like a lot of people want to take pictures of their minis, and I totally, totally get it. but sometimes you paint in a manner where you are purposely trying to trick the eye from a distance.
Mm.
So having that real up close image almost breaks the illusion.
Mm.
So like fun fact from advertising world, billboards you see on the side of the road,
Mm.
they're actually printed at real low resolution. Like you can
Right.
see the pixels printed, right? And they do that because it's hard to get that level of detail at that scale, but also you're viewing it from like 30, 60, 100,
Yeah.
200 plus feet away. So your eye puts those pixels together. It's almost like the same as being real zoomed in on an image where you can see all the pixels and then zooming out to the normal image.
Yeah.
It's like that same type of concept. So sometimes, like, when you are zoomed way in on my miniatures, I get real self conscious because I'm like, oh man, I can see all these things. But then when you look at it from a couple feet away, it looks almost perfect. And it's just really, really goofy.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
kind of so it's not like that. It's just pointless to print at a higher resolution when you're not going to see it, but it's also actually could be detrimental to print at a higher resolution because you get a different image of it. Like once you're seeing it from higher.
well, it's more a reminder for those that paint that are like, just because you're looking at people who are doing like box art,
Mm.
like yours don't need to be that amazing
Yeah.
because like they're painting for it to be viewed at that scale. They're
Right.
painting it to be put on like a poster, to be put on a box or whatever,
Yeah.
where you're painting for it to be on a table
Yeah.
for your
Right.
players. So like the way I
And,
always
and in all
gauge
and in
my
all
paint,
honesty, your monster will probably be out for a minute before it's slotted and
right,
taken off the table.
my goal with painting when I started, and still today, especially when I do monsters, is there was an episode of Critical Role where Sam Riegel had like the my dream response, where Matt put a monster on the table that he had put together himself
Mm.
and painted himself, because Matt in his own right is an amazing painter. Um, and Sam's response was like, "Matthew, what is wrong with you?" And then immediately followed that up with, "Can I see it?" Like he was like in character messing his pants, but out of character like, holy crap, that looks cool. And
Yeah.
that to me is like the duality response I always go for. Is like I want their character to be shitting bricks, but I want them in real life to be thoroughly amused and
Yeah.
amazed.
Yeah. It's
And if
always the
you're doing
case.
that, and if you're getting color on the mini, you're doing it right.
Yeah, that's always the case whenever like the Rancor comes out, or when like a new mini that he's excited to use, like a Wampa or something comes out, or like a Dewback Rider, and you're like, what the hell is this? And you gotta pick it up. I've gotten in the habit of
Yeah,
like you gotta take a very quick mental note because I'm gonna pick it up immediately. So you gotta take a mental note of exactly where it was so I can put it back again. What
yeah.
the fuck are we fighting? Oh my god! All right,
Yeah.
incredible stuff.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, that's
so
my goal. And like I said, like it's hard because you want to auto judge yourself against others,
yeah.
but it's something that I keep trying to remind myself and others to be like, hey, like a good friend of mine, Quarter Paint, he's doing a lot of box artwork for Privateer Press, and his stuff. I look at his posts and I'm like, dude, like how are you doing this? And then like I'm painting my stuff and I'm looking at his stuff and I'm like, yeah. But it's also he's been doing a lot longer and he's doing it for a very different purpose than what
Mm.
I'm doing it for.
What's where did you get your start then? You said that you were you started Magebrush out of necessity of needing a second channel, but like you must have been painting before that then. So how long had you been painting before you started Magebrush?
So I actually started painting when I was a kid, doing kits, doing like model
All
cars,
right, yeah.
trucks, that kind of stuff. I did that a lot when I was a kid, but I stopped because I got to a point where I have become a fan of making things, but also things that served a purpose. Which is why like I gravitate more towards graphic design and art direction and web design and stuff like that because it's stuff that is being utilized, um, versus like this is a pretty picture. And that's not a dig at anybody who loves doing that. Cool.
Yeah.
I just prefer my stuff to have a to serve a secondary purpose.
Yeah.
And so I stopped doing that for a while. And then when I started playing D&D, I was kind of like, where are the pieces? Because like I'd never done it before, never seen it before. And I was like, where are there like official pieces? Because we were playing with Lego figs,
Right. Yeah.
and which are
Same.
awesome. But like I was
Yeah.
like, aren't there? There's got to be official stuff. And they were like, well, yeah, but you got to paint it and this, that, and the other. And I was like, I did some stuff as a kid. I went to art school. Let me try this. So I did. I grabbed what were my first miniature was actually my PC at the time. It was a Dragonborn Ranger, and I grabbed just this cheap acrylic kit from here in the States. We have a little it's called what they call testers. They're I don't know
Right.
if
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
out your way. They had an acrylic line before they went under. Um, so I grabbed a little thing of their acrylic line. It was a box for, I grabbed like two boxes. One was like the standards with metallics, and the other one was like military colors and just the cheap brushes. And I just tried it. I was like, I really enjoy this. And so then I did that. And then my guy hated Knowles. So my DM constantly put Knowles on the table. So I bought a thing of Knowles. And then I started doing those with that same cheap color. And then I just started moving away from all that and just kind of snowballed to
Gateway
now.
drug.
Yeah, it was totally the Lego minifigs were totally a gateway drug.
Not
And
even
more like
once.
kind of like
Lego minifigs. Not even once.
yeah.
It's a public service announcement now to stay away from Lego. I also got started with Lego using Legos as my Lego things as my minis for all my games, and I was always very excited when I was like, let's see if I can make it. In fact, I've still got one that I was really proud of. If I did a good enough job, you'll be able to tell me what it is.
That almost like that's very Dalek like.
It is quite dark actually. What sort of D&D monster might it be? With this,
I want to say I'm gonna say Roper.
it is exactly a roper. Well done. Yes, a monster that looks like. Here's the actual D&D mini of it. Somewhere in here. Where are they? Oh, where is it? It's gotten lost somewhere. Where are you? I've got a roper.
I
somewhere.
love I love when other companies make the non-official Ropers and they give them like weird names. Like
Yeah.
Stone Eye Monster.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you know, that's
all of the D&D monsters that they're not allowed to say. Like I Tyrant is often the one given to beholders because they can't say beholder.
yeah. Just go through basically Reaper's miniature line.
Yeah.
Chef kisses.
This
Oh
is
yeah,
this is the official one.
WizKids
Everybody,
one.
look! It is what are they called? Stalagmite that has a single eye and a big old mouth and some tentacles coming out the side. Now I
They
think
can be
I did a pretty good
stalactite,
job.
too.
They can also, yeah, that's a good way to use a roper. Like then they can drag them up to the ceiling and drop them.
Just yeah.
Um,
Or just
yeah,
drop
I think
onto
I
the
did a pretty
players.
good job of
Oh
making
yeah.
that out of Lego. Is a
Oh yeah.
stalagmite with an eye
100%.
and a mouth and some tentacles. I
The
was
only
pretty pleased.
reason I didn't know it was a Dalek is the shape. Daleks are more like demented R2D2.
Yeah. And the fact that it's bright red because that's the only color that I had that could actually have all of the different sloped and coned pieces that I needed to make it out of it.
There's only one red Dalek though.
There's a red Dalek. I don't know. I never got into
Yeah.
Doctor Who myself. It was not my jam. I tried it a couple different times because a friend of mine loves Doctor Who, and she's given me a lot of recommendations over the years. She was like, "Oh, you're gonna love Avatar: The Last Airbender," and then I did. And then she was like, "You're gonna love Firefly," and then I did. And so I like trusted her a lot. And then she's like, "Oh, you should watch Doctor Who. You'd love it." And then I started it. I was like, "Oh no, I don't. Like this is not for me." I don't know why. I tried like 3 different Doctors in case it was just the Doctor that I didn't like, and it just I don't know what it was. Just not mine.
Which Doctors?
I don't
I
remember
must
now.
know now.
Matt somebody or other, and
Matt Smith.
who was after Matt Smith?
Capaldi.
Capaldi. I tried a Capaldi one and a Matt Smith one, and the guy before Matt, I think. I don't think I tried David
David
Tennant.
Tennant.
Was it David Tennant before
David
Matt
Tennant.
Smith? Maybe it was that.
David
I don't
Tennant
even remember.
was before Matt Smith. Yeah, it was. It was the dude I will forever know him from Gone in 60 Seconds as the bad guy
Oh
for
yeah.
like the return reboot season. And then it was David Tennant. And then it was Matt Smith. Then I want to say Christopher Capaldi, but I feel like that's the wrong first name.
Peter.
And then Peter Capaldi, thank
Yeah.
you. And then it was, um, Jodie Whittaker, I think that's her
Locken's
name.
jumping along with you as well. Jodie Whittaker, yeah. And then
Yep.
David Tennant again. So they had David Tennant
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Christopher Eccleston. That was the one that was another one that I watched. Not David Tennant. I think I skipped David Tennant or something.
That's his
But
name. I
yeah,
always forget
I
his
don't know.
name. I just know him as the dark elf from Thor, and then the bad guy from Gone in 60 Seconds. Because I
Yeah,
saw those
yeah. It never
years before
rains,
I
but
got
it
into Doctor
pours.
Who.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then I was like, hey, that's the guy that wanted all the cars and didn't pay up.
What a bastard. Now I can respect Doctor Who for how long it's been going, and like it's such a popular thing obviously in the zeitgeist that I know a shit ton of like references to it, the angels that move only when you're not looking at them, and the Daleks and stuff obviously. And like some great monsters in there, but for some reason maybe I'll give it another go one day. Maybe it was just the time that I was trying them. Maybe I was expecting something different.
Oh, here you go. Wait, we're talking Legos and Doctor Who?
Yeah.
Talking about nerd cred. Where'd he
Nerds.
go? Nerds.
Hands up in the chat if
I,
you're a Doctor Who fan. And
I
thumbs
had
up,
the,
thumbs down with your emotes.
the
Oh,
David
nice!
David Tennant Doctor Who
That's
has a
very
Lego
cute.
minifig.
That's very cute.
Hell yeah. So I did,
Um,
so I'm seeing in the chat like, oh, Christopher was the worst. Sure, but he got the show back on the air. He got
he
it
was he
successful
was the
enough.
first one that was like back once it
Yeah.
was like a reboot,
So
right?
if nothing else, appreciate what he did. He got it popular back enough for us to get David Tennant and everybody else.
Right. Maybe I should just
That's
start
all I'm
with
gonna say.
the latest seasons and and not like go back and try and watch any of the older ones because I imagine
You also
it's
got
adapted and changed a lot over the years.
you also got to understand like a lot of it, the campiness is like more or less Doctor Who heritage.
Right.
Like the low, but like the controls in the TARDIS being like a rotary telephone part, like and like obviously like they like supermarket swept like Goodwill and glued it all together and then give it a coat of spray paint. Like that's because it was
I
like
loved that.
originally like
I loved that about Red Dwarf as well. Did you ever get into Red Dwarf?
I tried it a little
Red
bit,
Red
but
Dwarf was very much about that, like the low budget element of it was like a huge part of its appeal.
yeah. So like I like that they keep that going with a lot of Doctor Who stuff currently with the low budgetness. So it's got that still a little bit of a charm to it.
All right, so we talked about how you got into painting, like even as a kid. How did you get into D&D
Sure.
though? How did you get into TTRPGs in general?
My uncle,
Hmm.
my aunt and uncle on my dad's side. It's my dad's sister and her husband. He actually used to work for. He is from Boston, and my family all lived up there at the time because I'm from there too. He actually has been playing since the beginning,
Hmm.
like no joke, the beginning. And on top of it, he worked for there's a company called Kaplow, Kaplow, Kaplow. It's a dice manufacturer that is actually based in Boston, or at least used to be. And he worked at the factory.
All
So
right.
like talk about top tier nerd, right? Like playing D&D on the cusp of existence while working in a dice factory. Uh, so growing up, and I would always hang out with them and whatnot, and go and they would babysit and whatever growing up. And then like I would always see he has this huge jar of like dice, and a lot of them were messed up because he would just take the misprints home and
Right.
whatever. So like, and I would always like hear him talking about it, and you know, once I got to a point in my life where I was just like, I'm not going to hide being a nerd anymore. I'm going to do what I want that makes me happy. Because everybody gets to that point.
Yeah.
At least I did. Um,
For me, it was more of a realization for myself. I didn't even realize I was a nerd growing up until I discovered D&D and things like that. And I was like, oh, this is my people. I've been a nerd the whole time. This
yes,
makes sense.
same. Like I was like constantly being forced into like that jock box.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I love me some hockey. That is my jam. I grew up playing, but like, yeah, I was like, but it was like very much. I also grew up very religious, so it was like that's it's still like a bit of satanic panic kind of a thing.
Right. Gotcha.
Um, so once I got beyond all that, and I was just like, hey, you play this thing called D&D, and I heard it a lot through being it more mainstream and shows like Big Bang Theory. They played it
Right.
a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
there, and so that was made me start asking him like, what is it, and this, that, and the other, and he was explaining to me he plays Pathfinder version 2 or 3. I don't know. He likes the real crunchy stuff,
Right.
so they play that, and he was just like, well, what I play is a little bit different, and he got me the 5e player's handbook, and tried to like walk me through it and everything like that, and then I found a comic shop where I used to live in Philly. It's called JD's Hero Complex on Main Street, Manioc. So if you're in that area, go give him a hug. Um, no, he's a good dude. And they used to have D&D games there,
Right.
and I was like, so I messaged and talked to them, and I just sat in and kind of learned by watching, and then I just jumped in and started trying it. This was
Nice.
like one of those like I don't know if I'm gonna like this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then once I started, I was like, all right, I'm done. I totally like took the bowl of Kool-Aid and just chugged it.
Right, I was going to say that's usually the experience I find. There's a couple of times I've talked to people who are like, "Nah, I tried it and it wasn't for me the first time," and then like I tried it again a few years later. But they're usually the exception. Most people I talk to are
Yeah,
like, I played my first game of D&D and then it was like cameras zoom into my face, pupils dilate, suddenly
yeah,
wake up from a blackout fugue state 3 years later, and your room is filled with minis and
yeah,
dice and
yeah, yeah.
all of
Now
these
I work for
books.
a gaming company. I have my second bedroom in my house, which is the master bedroom, is my hobby room with 3D printers and minis and paints and
Nice,
yeah. I took the
nice,
smaller
very good.
bedroom for myself so I could give D&D more room.
That's commitment. I love it. I've got myself an Anycubic photon printer as well, a little desk-sized 3D printer, resin one. So I can print things when I need to. I printed those coins that I was
Nice.
showing off, and I've printed a couple of minis that I need. But with the painting
Yeah.
side of things, not yet set up, and I don't have the
And then
room at this
like
house to do it. I'm just like, I'll
not
print them, and
even
then somebody
planned,
else
but
will paint them.
like I got like D20s and
Nice.
D6s and weather dice. So you can,
I literally have right in
yeah,
front of
just
me a
sitting at my
D18.
desk.
I've got a D18 and like I've got a bunch of
Nice.
weird dice. I've got a one of every number between 1 and 21, and then I've also got a D30, D48, D60, all the rest of it. So yeah, I just one day I was like, I just kind of feel like buying a bunch of novelty dice, and I bought a couple of $100 worth of novelty dice from the Dice Lab, where I've got some weighted dice just for lols. I've got some dice that I've got a D9, which is two sets of cubes. But the way that each of them is numbered, you roll them, and every number is equally likely between 1 and 9. Because one has like a 0, a 2, and a 3 on it, and the other one has like 1s and 4s and whatever. It's very, very
That's
weird and
funny.
crazy math stuff, but I've like got all these weird looking dice. I've got tiny dice. I don't have any like massive dice yet. I know a lot of people like sometimes I'll pop into people's streams and I'll see like big dice on shelves and stuff. So I keep
The
my
biggest
eyes out for
I
those when
have
I'm go to conventions.
I have the big D20 popcorn thing from when the D&D movie came out.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I have the D&D LED lamp. That is a big D20. It's about this big.
Nice.
Um, Kraken just dropped their, I think they're calling it the Mammoth. It is 30 pounds of solid billet aluminum, a D20. That's like the size of a soccer ball. And it's 30 pounds.
Jesus, that's insane.
That's heavier than my dog.
that's
My
enormous.
French bulldog is 25 pounds, and his die is
The
30.
funny thing is as well, like I'm not a dice, like I'm a mini hoarder. Like I will take any minis that people want to send me. Like if you want to send me anything to my PO box, minis is the best thing to go for. I've got thousands of them and I can always want more. Because yes, I've got 12 tieflings, but do you have a tiefling with a hood up and 2 daggers? Or do you have a tiefling with a hood up and 1 dagger? Or do you have a tiefling that's casting a spell? You gotta have a mini for every occasion in every possible orientation.
And that's the beauty of like Eldritch Foundry, man. You can make whatever you want on there. It's addicting.
Yeah, man.
Especially as a DM, I make and then like my homebrew campaign is more like a Victorian setting. And no one makes Victorian minis.
Right, yeah.
So like all the foes and stuff, I can just make on there, give them revolvers, give them shotguns, give them a boulder hat, like, and now and then just download the STL and print it, and now I got my Victorian foe guy.
Yeah, so I love the minis. There's all sorts of different ones you can have, but like dice, I'm like, I've got enough dice. I've got like 40 sets of. I've got too many dice. I've already got enough that I'm like, I have got my go-to dice, and then I've got like a big bag of spare dice for like taking to games, so that if somebody's forgotten dice, bam, here's some spare dice. But like novelty dice, I love novelty dice, but just general sets of dice, I'm like, I don't need them.
See, you're wrong. You gotta color coordinate
to your characters.
Dice to your character, and then you need a minimum of like 2 sets, so you can roll with advantage or disadvantage. Yeah. And then if you have like the larger sets that come with 2 D20s and extra D4s, like you need those for if you're playing a rogue, or like I show up with like 4 or 5 sets that are all color coordinated. Because like
if you're gonna be casting fireball, you need a shit ton of d6s.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing. The dice failing you and putting them off to the side. That's something that people shout at me all the time when I'm playing. When I'm playing in Twitch Tales, my interactive game on Twitch. The chat are the ones controlling the character, and so I'm the one rolling on their behalf. I've got a dice cam set up, and I roll in the thing. And then the chat are always like, "That's rolled too many times. Put it off to the side. Get rid of the dice." I'm like, I'm not superstitious. I don't believe in that. It's a random number generator, and it's gonna roll what it rolls. And so like that's another thing that sets me apart from a lot of superstitious D&D players who are like, "You gotta put them in dice jail, or you gotta ask them to be nice to you, or whatever." I'm like, it's just a dice. It's just a random number generator. I could do the same thing from a deck of cards or slip of paper out of a hat. And people think I'm sacrilegious for speaking that way.
Well, it's been a great interview.
Yeah. But minis. Let's talk about minis. So you
I
mentioned
almost 200 sets of dice.
Jesus, that's a lot of dice. I don't even know how many I've got. Over 40 for sure. Probably somewhere around the vicinity of 50, I'd guess.
I have wood. I have stone.
I don't have wooden dice
I have
yet.
Gemstone. I have all kinds of different metals.
So this is that. Like, I would agree with you that having the different types. This is why I love novelty dice. I love dice that are there because they're unique for a reason. Like, this dice is like a bee shaped and bee colored one because like I've got a character in this Twitch Tales game that is a giant bee. Like the main character's companion is a giant bee, so they bought me some bee dice, and then likewise they also got me some honey ones that have bees as inclusions, and I'm like, okay, these are different because this is solid opaque and this is translucent, so those are different, and therefore they deserve to be around. Whereas like once I've got some that are like, oh, this is this particular coloration and it's opaque and it's in this style, and this is the same style and it's opaque but it's a different coloration, I'm like, it's not different enough. If I got some wooden ones, that's different enough to, stick around. If I've got some metal ones, those are different enough to stick around. Once I've got some hollow, somebody sent me these ones recently, and they're very beautiful. It was my first set of hollow dice, like a metal frame essentially to it.
Yeah.
A metal frame that's got gaps all the way through it and stuff. Very beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, you can go in the collection because you're different. But as soon as they get too samey, I'm like, I don't need them. And that's, I guess, one of the reasons why I love minis so much, because they're, even if they are a bit samey, often you need more than one other thing. Like when WizKids started sending me stuff, when Viva got big enough that Wizards actually started sending me minis, sometimes at the beginning they used to send us like the packs, the like what do you call them? The random packs, essentially. And then I'd open them up. I'd have excitement, like opening them and seeing what I've got. And then I'd end up with lots of duplicates of stuff, which was great. And then more lately, they tried to save money by just sending me one of every set. And they'd be like, here's one null, and here's one this, and here's one that. And I'm like, I mean, that's great. But who needs one null? Who needs one goblin? When am I ever going to use one kobold? Right. Like, say, I need like half a dozen of each of those at least. They're specifically pack animals, and they're like mobsters. You need one of everything.
I raid eBay. There's a few sellers on there that will have like you can buy like a pack of like 6 kobolds for a few bucks,
right?
Or whatever. So I'll do that, or 3D print them.
Yeah. So, I want to talk about Eldritch Foundry. You mentioned them before, and you mentioned being involved with them. How did that come about? And for anyone who doesn't know, what is Eldritch Foundry? That's probably a good place to start.
Eldritch Foundry. Eldritch Foundry is a tabletop miniature maker. So if you go to eldritchfoundry.com, you can go into the Create Your Hero. And you can literally completely customize your hero. So you can do, that's actually what I was doing before we were starting. I was making a new version of my character. And you can customize the face, you can customize the hair, the beard, the nose, you can customize all the armor, you can customize the gloves, shoes, pose. We have some really cool epic poses now, where you can have, if your character flies, you can do like a levitate type thing, or if you're doing, like you said, it's like Star Wars, you could do like more of a Mandalorian type thing with a jetpack.
Nice.
There's some really cool stuff you can do in there, and then you can either pay and we'll print it for you and ship it, or you can download the STL and print it at home. Yeah, which are $5 for the STLs. And then we also have subscriptions if you download, which are great for GMs, because it's, I think the most expensive plan is like $15, and that's only if you're paying for that month.
Right.
It's like $15 for unlimited downloads.
Jesus. Okay. Oh, no, this is not good.
We don't.
Oh God.
We don't cap the downloads. So I have Eldritch Unlimited.
Could you just tell me it's a lot more, please? Just because that'll help me not lose the rest of my month.
The special Rob Hartley price is like $2,000 a month.
Oh, thank God. Whew. That's gonna save me. Yeah, man, I could get lost in that stuff.
Anybody else?
For anybody else, super cheap.
But if you log in as Rob, you're gonna get robbed.
It's the only way to keep my budget able to eat this month. Otherwise, I'll have a bunch of STLs that I don't actually download. Never actually get around to print them anyway.
Yeah, so it's great. Like I said, it's great for having a homebrew campaign because it's a setting that isn't standard, and you can't go get GW stuff, and I'm that person that uses GW stuff for D&D. Sue me.
Right. Yeah, use whatever you want. Use Lego.
I've been berated in a game store for it.
Oh really?
I was like,
gatekeeping nerds. Do you know how niche our industry is? Look out! Zoom out a bit. Do you know how many people in the world haven't even heard of D&D? Fucking get a grip. Stop pushing other people in your tiny niche out of your niche.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm still spending the money. Who cares what I'm doing it with?
Yeah.
If I went into the parking lot and set it on fire,
I could buy it, throw it in the ground, and stamp on it. It's my thing at that point. I've bought it.
But yeah, so it's what's nice that I like about it is not only can you make whatever your dream mini is, your dream character, you can pretty much build it. There's obviously limitations with certain things, but we just dropped some wheelchair stuff, and the one that I'm painting for the booth right now, it's hands down my favorite. It is so metal. It's not even a traditional wheelchair, it's a crawler, dude. It's got 6 legs around it. It's like a chair, just giant throne chair with double barrel automatic weapons, with guns, with a belt of bullets, and it's got 6 legs that are just crawling. I'm like, this is so cool.
Amazing. For a
So yeah,
particular
there's
for a particular setting? Is it for like some sci-fi game, or is it just
no,
like,
it's
hey,
just
use this for whatever it fits in?
yeah,
If
it's
you got
just
guns in your
our.
D&D game, put it in your D&D game.
There's also another one that's kind of like it's more futuristic that has tank treads,
Oh,
but it's
nice.
more like cyberpunky but with treads. It's pretty cool. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff on there. So I got hooked up with them because through Ashlyn actually, because they were sponsoring Art of the Adventure.
Right.
And when I say Ashlyn, I keep meaning Dollar Store DM for those that
Yeah.
don't know. She's just my found family sister. So her and I are on a different level. Um, but they were the sponsor, so I kind of got talking to them through that, and I was just kind of like, "Who's doing your design work?" And they're like, "Kind of nobody." And I'm
Oh,
like, I volunteer as tribute, so
right.
now I've been helping them for the past
Got to put
little over a
yourself out
year
there and just
now.
like ask for the job that you want. Be like, hey, this is something
Yeah,
I should do it for you. And they're like, yeah,
yeah. It
sure,
was more it
do it.
was more or less like I can do it if you would like me to. I'd be
Mm,
more than happy to help. I love the product. I use it. I've painted enough of them at that point. So
mm.
I'm like, they're great. And what I like about them too is like, unlike some others, like fit more in line with like the WizKids miniatures, like as far as
Right.
like
Yes.
size and like look.
The look
They
to
don't
him.
look
Yeah.
as like bulbous and cartoony. They
Yes.
actually
Right.
look like a person
Yeah.
or like, you know what I mean? They don't have like the giant
giant,
bulbous noses
giant
and
face.
things,
Yeah.
which some people are cool with, and that's cool. Like I'm not gonna disparage like what you like. I liked them before I started doing anything with them just because I like that. Because it's like I'm a designer by trade. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
if I have Reaper minis and WizKids minis on the table, I need something that also fits in with
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
And Edge Foundry stuff fit in visually a lot nicer, which is why I gravitated towards them.
And then you go to some games and they're like, oh, we're using a piece of ripped paper for this guy, and we're using a plastic token for that one, and we're using a 3D stand-up plastic token for this one, but then an actual mini for that, and then a Lego
Hey
mini over
man,
here, and you're like, you
my uncle
use
used a penny. He had a specific penny that he used to use for his character.
amid everybody else, all those minis. Just imagine them all like
No,
perfect.
no, he
Imagine,
paid. I
I
painted
just
his
got an
first
imagine.
mini.
I just got an image of him like in the future, like getting to a getting to like a virtual reality situation where all like we've all got virtual headsets and we're moving things around in this virtual space, and he's still just loaded in this penny to use.
Yeah, he just took a photo of it and loaded it up into the VTT. Yeah, he played. Like I said, he's played since like the early '80s, and he hadn't had a miniature for his character until I painted one for him like a year ago.
Wow.
Up into that point, like he had gone. I was just like, okay,
Hey, whatever
he's
works, right?
yeah. Again, I'm not going to disparage. Like, there's no wrong way to play D&D. If you're doing it all theater of the mind, you're doing it right.
I don't know,
You're
man.
doing it
You
with
you get onto the Reddit threads of like horror stories and things, and you're like, okay, that's the wrong way to play D&D.
well,
Yeah,
I'm sure there are wrong ways, but what I mean by that is like the Matt Mercer effect.
mm,
I think is kind of horseshit.
mm,
Like that is one way to play D&D.
mm-hmm.
And I get why it's a popular way to want to play D&D. It's very visual, and I'm a very visual person and learner. So like for me, it works.
Yeah.
So I try to do that. But like I've seen people that have huge setups where they physically like, oh, we're walking into town, we're going down this street.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And hey man, that's cool too. If I had the space and the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah, I don't know if you know Lord Gazumba. He's another Twitch partner in the D&D world, and incredible creator. He's been going since like D&D began. He's got the same campaign world that he's been running, the same campaign in the Greyhawk world that's been running for like 45 years or something now. And he runs like a mixture of 1E, 2E, and his thing is that he's got like 3 or 4 cameras set up in his basement, and his basement's freaking huge, and he's got just the more terrain than anybody in the world. It's just insane how much stuff he's got, and he's got this huge table that's like you can't possibly reach the middle from any particular side of it, and it's usually like all this and you're like playing the entire campaign and you're moving around. He's much more like a war gamer in that respect of like moving the minis around like that. So it takes all kinds. Like you've got that, and then at the other end of the scale, you've got people who do entirely theatre of the mind, never use a map for anything, never use minis.
Yeah, like when I started, first few years of me playing D&D, we were using Lego minifigs on that tan Chessex mat with wet erase markers.
Yeah.
Like a bush was a squiggle with a green wet erase marker. And that's not a wrong way to do it. You know, as long as everybody's having fun, you're doing it right.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as everybody's having fun, that's the thing. As long as everybody's having fun, you're playing correctly. You're playing right.
Yeah,
You're doing D&D.
It is a game, after all.
So that's how you got in touch with Eldritch Foundry and started working with them. What was the first stages like? Like they had stuff for you to do because you kind of invented your own job with them. Like, what was the workload
they
like?
They actually had somebody that stopped working for them, so it was actually good timing, apparently. So a lot of it is just mostly doing like the social stuff. Since then, I've taken on a lot more things. So like, I've planned out the PAX booth, done all the stuff like the banner and all the print things for the PAX booth. I had been doing the video that goes on rotation on a TV at the booth. Excuse me. Mostly, it's primarily social stuff and banner ad type things because most of our advertising is digital.
Right.
But some of it is like the package design. Like if you buy a miniature now, you get the little package insert. That was my design.
Nice.
Although sometimes they don't get printed correctly. It's out of my control. Like I just held this up realizing it's not printed right. This white is supposed to be the Eldritch Unlimited ad. But
trial and error. It's always the case in anything.
Hey man.
Like, well, you got to notice this isn't right. Got to fix that now.
Yep, it's always something. Yeah. So like I've been doing a lot of that. We just
and what do they have you doing at the booths? Like in preparation, you've got a lot of work to do, obviously. And then when you get to the booths for things like PAX or Gen Con, what were you doing at the Eldritch Foundry booths?
So at Gen Con, it was more sales, like doing stuff like that, just being a person working for them. This time we have a 10 by 20 booth, and we're going to have a little table set up where I am actually going to be painting the entire time because we're going to have a spoiler alert. We're going to have a combo you can buy at the booth that is going to be paint brushes and a mini.
Oh, cool.
So I'm going to be painting kind of like. Yeah, well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah, the first one's free.
but like a lot of people, it's a shame because like for me, painting is real fun and it is that therapeutic thing for me. Like painting really helps me with like anxiety and depression. Like it truthfully does.
That's good.
So like. For me, I want to try to help people get started, and like a lot of people are afraid to get started.
Yeah.
So like the fact that we're doing the little combo, and kind of doing a little bit of a demo of those items there, and I'll happily answer questions and try to help as much as I can while being there. Like the one girl I work with, she does a lot of our customer service. She's like, "Can you teach me while we're there?" I'm like, "Yeah." So we got 2 chairs. She's gonna pull up a chair and I'm gonna teach her some basic painting stuff. Like
that's a really
love getting people
clever
started
idea
in the
because then
hobby.
people can come to the booth and watch somebody who's good at it teaching somebody who's not, and then you've got that buy-in from people. Like because that's one of the problems when you are just doing something that's like I'm just gonna be painting. Like you'll get people coming along and then being too afraid to even ask any questions or to get started or whatever because they don't want that one-on-one interaction. They want to have some area of being removed from it because it's safer that way. You can see somebody else who's a noob to it, and then you can project yourself onto them. In the similar sort of psychology as like silent protagonists in video games and stuff. You want someone to be able to project yourself onto while still being removed from it, that you're safe. And I think that's a really good idea to do it at the booth, to be like, hey, who
Well, and
who
not
can we
only
paint with?
that, but not only that, like for me getting started, like I YouTube was my teacher, and you can't ask YouTube questions.
Yes,
You
right.
know what I mean? So like being able to be there and painting at the booth will allow people to come up and be like, "Hey, can I ask you this painting question
Hmm.
or whatever?" And like when at Gen Con, for example, the Artist Opus guys were there doing their showing off their dry brushes and stuff like that with that specific dry brush technique. And I asked them, I was just like, "Hey, when you get some downtime or whatever, could you show me how it's done?" And he was like, "Yeah, dude." Sat me down and we did that dry brushing technique, and it was awesome. Because it's like you see it done online, but it's a whole nother thing to try it and
Hmm.
then being told like you're doing it not quite right.
Yeah,
Especially
right.
something with like that technique where it's kind of not a dry brush, but it's also not a wet brush. It's like a
You kind of
moist brush.
yeah, you gotta feel it. You gotta feel it out. Like, are
Yeah,
we
so it
are
was
we like a
nice.
damp brush or a moist brush? Are we? You're like,
It's like
okay. So on a scale of moist to
yeah, I'm
damp,
like yeah, on a scale of like 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely like dunked in
drenched,
water, you want it to be at like a 1, right? Where it's
not a
not
zero.
quite bone dry, but it's got just enough to help the paint go a little bit more smooth.
A
Yeah,
humid brush.
humid brush. Yeah. Yeah, basically a humid brush. Uh so, but it's just it's one of those things without having somebody there. It was nice to have somebody there telling me like nope, too wet or not wet enough.
Yeah,
That's something that's hard to tell, right?
yeah,
That's
you
a
can tell.
feel
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And that's a hard thing to tell from video. So sometimes it's nice just to be able to ask a question. And even in some workshops, you don't have that opportunity, which is why, like, if somebody's going to a convention, I very much recommend the paint and takes because they always have people there that can help answer questions. You know, like
Nice.
I hung out at the paint and take a bunch at Gen Con.
So, talking about like present day Magebrush, like what is your focus now? Is your focus you said at the start Eldritch Foundry is kind of like a side thing, and you got other focuses as well. Like what is the present day Magebrush like all about? What are your focuses these days and your passions?
What I'm trying to focus on at this point is I know I'm not the best painter out there. That's
Nobody is.
not even a question. Yeah. There's some people that are
I mean,
I swear to
I
I
guarantee
swear
I
they
would
made a
put my
deal with the
entire
devil.
I would put my entire life savings on getting any single one of those persons that you're talking about or thinking about, and asking them, are they the best painter in the world? And they'll be like, no, this other person is. Like, everybody's got somebody else that they look at.
True. So for now, I look at instances like we were talking about that guy at the game store that berated me for buying. What was I buying? It doesn't matter. It was the Ghost Boys, the chain rasp I bought those because ghosts are great.
Ghosts,
You have
yeah,
10 of
ghosts are
them.
great.
We used them in the Halloween campaign. Full circle.
Full circle around,
Uh,
everybody.
so like for me, I want to be anti-gatekeeper. Like
Hmm.
I want to try to be as helpful and as transparent as possible to help people get painting and get started in the hobby. And also trying to be more of a mental health advocate because I have gone through a litany of troubles and issues.
Right,
It's why I moved complete cross country.
right,
I used to live in Philadelphia, now I live in San Diego, and that was 100% a mental health move.
right.
And like I said, painting helps me with that. So, and I'm taking classes to try to not be a therapist, but like some like mental health first aid they're talking about,
Right,
to where you
yeah,
can
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of be like a
Smart.
counselor.
I like that.
So like I'm trying to do stuff like that, and I'm trying to work with Guardians MH to develop a. Actually, need to email them to develop a like a kit. They have these kits that they give out for like social drain and stuff like that at cons. but
Right.
I want to try to do one that's more of like an art therapy one,
Okay.
right? Because there are certain things that, like even Lego has a. I found an article on the Lego website that was like, do a build of all one color, and it helps
Right.
because it helps like focus your brain in a different way. That it helps you focus your brain in a different way to where you kind of are removing yourself mentally away from anything that had happened that day, right?
Right.
Where it's
Okay.
like, and because you're hyper focused on like, what can I make with just yellow pieces
Yeah.
that isn't like a banana or something crazy? So like even doing things like that and just trying to constantly challenge yourself, and it's really any hobby that you love doing. It can be gardening. If you throw yourself fully into it, you get the dopamine boost of like joy from doing it, and then the extra boost of joy of accomplishing it, of being like,
Right.
look
Yeah.
at the thing I did. I'm so happy with it. Like I guarded. I had a bird of paradise that was two in a pot. One died. I literally pulled the other one out of the pot and added some more soil and then some fertilizer and watered it. I'm like, yay! I'm so good at
Gardener.
this. Even though one died, I'm like, this is such a good time because it's just that
50%
stupid little
success rate.
boost.
And if I tear this one out, it's 100% success rate. Don't look behind me.
Yeah, but yeah, I
Yeah.
just so I mean that's my goal, right? Is to just
That's a
help
good goal.
people get going in such a fun hobby that many are afraid of, and I get why it can be scary, but it's genuinely just super fun.
And
Um,
is Eldritch Foundry and Magebrush enough to to pay the bills, or you got like a regular person job too? Like, what do you?
I have a regular person job. I work at an ad agency.
Is it something you
It's
enjoy doing, or is it something that ultimately you'd
Yeah,
love for
it's fun.
Magebrush to get to a point where you're like, I can pay the bills with
I
this
mean,
alone?
I would love to have that be my primary of just
Right.
being in the gaming space with all the so like let me put it this way, that my life has forever changed because of when I started playing D&D. And I don't say that lightly. D&D's helped me show me who real friends are versus fake friends. Um, and then it helped me find people that are like you said earlier, like you got into your nerd thing and you found your people. Like I found my people.
Yeah.
And then I met Ashlyn through Dollar Store DM. I met her through a building competition. And now I literally call her sis when I see her. And so like through D&D and stuff has really helped my mental health journey because I've had people who actually cared supporting me through it rather than fake friends or just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
People like Ashlyn who actually were supporting and pushing me to do things, but also others that are some of my best friends who have gone through similar stuff, and we can talk about those things with no judgment or whatever. So it really is like a big found family that has greatly impacted my life. So when I say like I want to do these things full time and whatnot, like it'd be great because I would love to pass all of that forward. You know what I mean? And try to help some other people do the same thing. Because I know
Yeah.
like growing up with depression and anxiety and stuff like that is not a fun time,
Yeah.
and
I don't imagine it is. That's not that's not a thing that people usually say
no,
about it. Hey, try depression. It's a good
yeah,
thing.
it's great for
It's
like
good.
5 minutes. But like truthfully, like the last thing, so and like and I don't say that just from like my experience, but like I had friends that have also suffered, and like the last thing I did in Philly before moving out was literally attending my friend's funeral, who took his own life from depression.
Yeah, it sucks, man.
And it does. And like it's heartbreaking that because he was also one of those people that always he was one of the few that were like in that area that was super supportive, and
Right. Yeah.
like when the few because like he had a motorcycle shop and we rode our motorcycles and stuff, and everybody's like macho man, and I'm like, look at this
Right.
mini I painted. And he was always like, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like that, he was that guy.
Not
So
not
it was
enjoying your like. one of the guys who can acknowledge that enjoying your thing doesn't mean you have to put down other people's things. It's one of the things I see too much is like people who think they're being complimentary by saying like, "Oh, I love your work with so and so. It's so much better than this other thing," and it's like, just cut that end bit. You didn't need to say that.
Right.
Like, I love your work with so and so is enough. Like, you don't need to compare our work with other people's work in order for our work to feel better. And until you sort of point that out to people, they don't necessarily know that that's not a healthy thing to do. That's not like comparing people to other people's work is not what we're about. Like comparing what you love to what other people's love. I don't know or understand the first thing about sports, but my brothers are both into it. My dad's into it. Like, I'm very much the black sheep of the family. I'm the only nerd in the family, and so. Like, whenever they get on a talking about Formula One or football or rugby or something, I'm like, I try and get involved. Like, recently they were all ranting and raving about is it called the TMO, the like the automatic slow-mo camera that they're introducing to the Rugby World Cup, and my dad's ranting about how it's ruining the sport and stuff, and I was trying to give like a devil's advocate to try and get involved, and it got to a point where I was like, what am I don't give a shit. Like, this is not something I don't have a dog in this race. All right, so I'm just gonna be like, okay, yeah, and I'll let them go. Yeah. But I'm not shitting on what they enjoy, and likewise they're not shitting on what I enjoy. It's just like, it's not my thing.
Right. Just because it's not your thing doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah. And like when you know, if my brother posts something about his son, my nephew, like achieving something in sports, I'm like, yeah, way to go. Like, I don't care, but like, good job. You can still enjoy and encourage people to do the things that they enjoy and do it well. So it sounds like your friend was a good one, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah, he was definitely a good dude. And what's funny is we found out it's funny in the way, because like I am not the tallest person. You met me, and he was like 6'2". He also has his like dad is from like Nigeria, so he was also like he was ripped and like just dark as night. And then I'm standing there, and then we're like, we're related, because like our great grandmothers were sisters.
Oh wow!
We found it out. So somewhere down the line, I mean, we're like four, so it's like cousins like 4 times removed. I think that's what it's called. Yeah. So it was always funny in the shop to be like, guess which 2 people are alike, and no one ever guessed like the token white guy who's short and kind of fat. No, I'm not fat, but like the short white guy,
definitely different body structures for sure.
Yeah, and it's like it was almost like
Danny DeVito,
like Danny DeVito
twins.
and Wesley Snipes. It's like these 2 are related.
I love that we both stretched for Danny DeVito in the analogy. I went for Twins, the movie where he's playing twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, but it'd be like if you swapped Arnold for like Wesley Snipes.
But, yeah. Or Terry Crews. Danny DeVito and Terry Crews. Yeah, they're fourth cousins. Fourth cousins or whatever it is.
I want to see that movie now. Those 2 are such goofballs. That would probably be amazing.
That would be a great movie, I'm sure. I'm sure The Rock would do it as well. Huge Samoan dude. All right, so I want to sort of move into sort of the future of Magebrush, but before I do, I want to remind people in the chat. This is live. As little as I am interacting with the chat, I apologize for that. Well, I don't apologize. I just acknowledge it. I've got an amazing guest here, and I love to spend time listening to them. So do put your questions in the chat. However, though, I still will read them. If you redeem them using your copper pieces, it just takes 50 copper pieces, and you can redeem a question. That way, it goes into a redemptions list, and it doesn't get lost in the time that I'm not looking at the chat. And then I'll ask all of your questions at the end. I don't believe copper can be gifted, no. But you could. It only costs 50, and you earn them. Like, if you've been watching this since the start, you'll have hundreds of copper already. You earn them pretty quickly. So
I only have 80.
Well, maybe someone needs to up their watching game on. Well, so you can redeem a 50-point ask a question, and I'll get to them at the end. I know that we got a few coming in at the start earlier. All right, so moving sort of past, present, future. Future of Magebrush, future of your jobs with Eldritch Foundry, future of any upcoming conventions and things. What's on the more recent, not more recent, more upcoming future, and then we'll go into sort of blue sky, long distance future.
So right now, what I got going on is we are prepping for PAX Unplugged, which you talked about a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Philadelphia, December 1 through 3. So I get to go
Philadelphia,
back
if you can
there.
get to Philly, everybody. I'm not going to PAX Unplugged this year, but I am considering it some other year. A lot of people have been asking, like, "Oh, you coming to PAX Unplugged?" I'm like, I am. I'm doing so many conventions over this year and the next year that I can't, like, it's so
Right.
much travel. From New Zealand,
Yeah.
especially, it's extremely expensive to get to the US and time consuming. So, not this year, but
Yeah.
maybe next, maybe the year after. We'll see.
Especially considering your Gen Con issues. I don't
Yeah.
imagine you want to go through.
Oh, I love traveling. The travel curse is just all a part of it. I'm like, I get it. It's just I'm used to my travel curse
Yeah.
now. It just goes hand in hand with it. But yeah, I did
Yeah.
Armageddon in New Zealand. I did PAX Australia. I did Gen Con. I did PAX Australia again this year. Next year I'll be doing Gary Con, Gen Con again, probably Armageddon again in Auckland, PAX Australia again. I love travel and I love conventions. So like hell yeah, I'll get
Yeah.
to them if I can.
PAX Unplugged was my first. So
Nice.
when I was living in
You got
Philly,
a
that was
soft
my
spot for
first.
it.
Oh yeah, total soft spot for it. So when the owner was like, "You want to go?" I'm like, "Hell yes, I want to go." Plus, it'd be nice to see some of my friends. Like my one buddy there, he and his wife just had a baby, so it'd be nice to see, you know, the baby not in pictures and see some other friends and try to visit my aunt and uncle, the one that got me started in all this. They live right over the bridge in New Jersey, so I'm gonna try to go see them as well. But yeah, so I'm gonna be at PAX Unplugged, painting the whole time. I just got delivered all the miniatures for Acquisitions Inc. their
There
live
we
play.
go. And you would get to it eventually. We're an hour and a half in. We kind of buried the lead a little bit, not talking about the. I didn't want to bring it up because I was like, I'm not sure if it's something that you can talk about or not, and I don't want to out you as doing something you're not allowed to talk
Me
about.
neither. So
So let's find out.
see how much trouble I get in. No, it don't matter. The owner, Eldritch Found, was like, "Yeah, whatever, dude."
So you
But
so how did
we
that?
signed an NDA.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't
So
signed
base,
anything, you can talk about it, I guess. So
yeah,
you've been given the minis that they're going to be using for Acquisitions Incorporated, and you're the one
for
painting
the
them
for the live play,
for the live
yes.
game, which is incredible. For anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's a lot. Like Acquisitions Incorporated is one of the earliest actual play D&Ds, and it's a huge one. And it's I'd say it's not quite on the level of Critical Role fame, but it is definitely like second or third in the most famous D&D get actual plays in the world, I would say. On a similar level to Dimension 10, 20, do you reckon that would be fair to say? Like I don't know exact numbers for any of them, but
Probably I would say Critical Role, D20, and then Acking.
Acquisition Incorporated, yeah. Acquisitions Incorporated is large enough to have their own like published stuff with Wizards of the Coast. Like they've got
Well, it
Acquisitions
helps.
Incorporated specific spells and modules and setting and stuff like that.
It helps when your DM is like one of the lead game designers for WotC,
All
Chris
right.
Perkins. So
It does, yeah. No, I
yeah.
forgot about that. I forgot that that's the the fact because Acquisitions Inc. has always been one of those that's been on my peripheral. But like I got into Critical Role
Mhm.
huge when I started. I watched whatever D20 wasn't behind a paywall when I started. Acquisitions Inc. was I started learning about Acquisitions Inc. around the time that I started just not having any time to do it anymore because I was consuming so much of everything else, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of
Right.
saturated for time, and so they were always
Right.
just kind of on the peripheral, and I never actually got around to watching their stuff too much. But
So
obviously,
yeah,
you know about
it
them.
it is
It's a pretty huge deal
terrifying.
to have to get the job of painting the minis that they're going to be using for their live game.
I am scared something fierce.
I bet, man. I bet you would because people will be like, "Oh, look at the minis and get let's extreme close-ups of them and show them off."
Well, not only that, but it's like here's how I'm looking at it, and this is why it freaks me out. I'm trying to get this other painting job that would be amazing that I will not talk about.
Okay.
But that would be amazing, right? I am painting miniatures to represent Eldritch Foundry
Yeah.
because they're all completely custom sculpts
Yeah.
specifically for their characters.
Nice.
And then I'm going to be handing over the minis to Chris Perkins.
Right.
And if it all goes south, the lead designer of D&D will be mad at me. And then it'll make
fine. This
is the anxiety speaking. Then he will be mad. Then it will make Eldritch Foundry look bad, and then myself. So
you've got this whole downward spiral planned out. You're like, here's how I'm going to spiral into anxiety.
Oh, I've already like panic texted Ashlyn. I panic texted a couple of my painting friends, like, does this look okay? I'm not even halfway through, like, it's just color blocks. I don't know. And they're like, bro.
I've suddenly gotten colorblind. I can't see anymore. I don't know what it is that I'm doing.
Why is everything in grayscale now? I don't understand.
I'm doubting everything I've ever learned about minis. Which side of the brush do I use?
Yeah. The handle. Like, it's not working. Yeah, so I'm kind of feeling the pressure, but I feel like I'm also putting the pressure on myself.
Oh,
like, 100%. I feel like no matter what I do, because I know I'm not a bad painter, but it's like I look at like people that do like the box art and stuff. I'm like, it's not that level. It's not that level though, but it's not that level. So it's like a lot of like imposter syndrome sinking in.
All right.
But I know
so what I'll say, people watching, head over to Instagram and head to Magebrush and look at the stuff that Andrew puts out there. And then I'm not even going to tell you to tell him it's great, because then he hears that I've told you to tell him it's great and he doesn't trust it. Just tell him the honest opinion of it. Make some comments under the Instagram page. Make some comments under the stuff about like what you like about it or what you don't like about it and things like that. And then if they're giving you their honest answers, Instagram.com/Magebrush, like if they're giving you honest answers and you get people saying, hey, this is good stuff, hopefully you can at least start to hear it, because it took a long time for me. Like, it took a lot of people telling me that it took a lot of people telling me I'm a good DM before I started to believe it. And I was like, oh, okay. It also took me playing in a lot of games with other DMs and going, oh man, that wasn't good. like a lot of DMs in my time, I've been like, oh, I see why people say I'm good, because I'm much better at this aspect than that DM was, or I'm much better at pacing, or I'm much better at this. Like, I try not to compare myself, but you can understand. It is important. Like, there is two sides of the imposter syndrome, right? There's the imposter syndrome of being like, oh, I don't know why I'm so good, why I'm so bad, and people think I'm so good. But like, there's also, if you take that too far, it's complete self-deprecation and delusion in the other sense.
Yeah.
You don't want to be deluded. Imposter syndrome is like the way of inoculating you against self-delusion and overconfidence into arrogance, where people are like, I'm so good at what I do, I'm the best in the world, and they're overstating their own abilities and boundaries. And to try and prevent you from getting to that stage, people break themselves down. In New Zealand, it's called tall poppy syndrome, where everybody else breaks you down as well. As soon as you start to stand out from the rest of the field of poppies, they cut you down and say, you're not that good. It's a problem.
Well, it's not. It's also. It for me, at least personally, a lot of it is coming from some past trauma where I'm just being told I'm not good enough, and like that, like physically being told that.
Yeah.
So like that's also something that is like I'm trying to get over with therapy. So it's like that plus the like this is a big deal.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, and it takes time, But I think that it's just one of the most toxic things in the industry that we're in, of people not being able to acknowledge when they're good at something, and I don't think it's arrogance to acknowledge when you are good at something. Just to be realistic, I don't mind saying, and it sounds arrogant, but I don't mind saying I am a great DM. Yeah. Because I can likewise say I'm terrible at sports. I don't know anything about music. I'm not a good artist. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. I'm not good with medicine. And like there's a million fields that I'm not good at. I know what I am good at. I'm a good storyteller. I am a good public speaker. I'm good at this and this, and it's okay to say to acknowledge that you're good at the things you're good at. And you are good at painting. You are very good at mini painting, and you need to remind yourself that when you get into these anxiety spirals.
yeah, it's a hard thing, man. And especially when it is so easy to look at, some of my peers who like I do recognize that like through I'm not really trying hard not to name names, but I've seen some people's stuff in person that I thought I would be way more wowed than I was. I was a little underwhelmed.
Mm.
And I was like, huh, maybe I am good at this shit.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
then I
because you
get some
start to
other
recognize
people's stuff
things.
in my hand, and I'm like, oh, no, that's the bar. So it's like, it's weird, man. Like, I know some painters, and like, even Ashton was like, hey, you were better, and like, listed people. Like, you were better than these people. And I'm like, and it's also hard because like art is such a subjective world,
Yeah.
and like so like I like with
Which is why
like
even the
I work in
people
the
at
ad
the
agency.
top are never going to be at the top in their own minds because of the
Right,
subjectivity. They're so close
right,
to what they can do themselves that they're like, oh, but this person's doing
right.
this thing, which is a completely different
Like
style, and I could
I
never do
like
that.
right, like I've presented stuff at work where I'm like, this is going to be awesome. This is the choice. It's so spot on to the creative brief,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. And the client's just like, no, don't like it. It's like, oh, I guess I'll go fuck
Like,
myself.
oh, I'll just get out the brief. Ticks this box. Ticks this box. Ticks this box. Yeah, but it just feels
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah. They're like, but I don't like it. It's like, thanks. I'll just set fire to it now. Uh,
So how many have you been given? I don't want you to go into too many specifics in case you end up talking about things you shouldn't be. But like, what have you
there
been given
are
to actually do?
seven,
7 minis that you've
seven
got
of
to
the
paint for?
characters.
Right.
I primed them all yesterday. I started one last night, and I'm like, I am repainting half of this.
Have you been given like alternates as well in case things break? Because that would be my anxiety. Not like I'm painting it wrong, but like I'm gonna snap off the I'm gonna snap his mace or something.
Oh, I ordered. So I have a foam case with cutouts that they are going to live in, and I also ordered um, like 4 or 5 sets of these miniatures.
Yeah.
That way, if they came broken or slightly
You got the chance.
misprinted, just in the off chance, I'm like, I have multiples. I also own the STLs.
Nice.
I made the owner give me
Of
the
course,
STL,
of
so I'm like,
course, of course.
if these all show up massively or lost in the mail, I will just print them myself.
That's brilliant.
But yeah,
Gonna get
yeah, I don't know.
armored guards to, to handcuff themselves to the briefcase once you painted them.
Close. That briefcase is going into my. I ordered a Pelican case for all my paints and stuff, and they're going into a foam mini case, and then that mini case is going into my Pelican case that is also foam lined, which also I've hid has 3 locks on it that are all different combinations, and then I also hid a Apple AirTag in it too. So like,
Of course. I love it. I guarantee some of the Acquisitions Inc. guys will be turning up being like, they'll be at the airport and be like, oh, I should have brought dice. Like, the levels, like once you're at the level that you'd be like, meh, it's just, turn up, and if it turns, you can be losing it.
yeah.
And the people who are working for the people looking up at them as if they're like this thing up here, you're like, oh, going to all this trouble of making
But you
sure
know,
that
going to a convention for getting dice is not the worst thing.
no.
Because it's like you're going to a tabletop convention, and it's like there's going to be like 7 different dice dealers. They're like they might, and if not, you could probably find a guy in the back corner like, "Hey, I hear you need dice," and like open up their trench coat, just
Yeah.
dice.
Yeah, Sunblighter
What
says
happens if I forget my
then
codes?
you get there and
Oh,
forget the codes. Yeah.
no, I have, so
Well, you see, I also hired
codes.
I also hired a Sphinx to remember the codes on my behalf and tell me them only if I answer a specific riddle.
You say Sphinx, I say Siri.
All right, this has been amazing, but we're running out of time, so let me open up the request queue
Yeah.
and see what people have been asking, and then we can get to that. So when is the Acquisitions Incorporated game that people can watch out and see your amazing work?
I believe it is going to be. I believe it's going to be on Saturday. I'm going to have them. So we got a nice big glass LED lit case at our booth that
Nice.
they're that I'm going to have a bunch of my minis there, actually quite a bit of my minis there, along with some commission stuff from people like Don Serratos, um, Quarter Paint, figuratively speaking, Pepperina Sparkle Gem. Um, I'm forgetting a bunch of others, and I really am sorry. I'm forgetting names.
Hey, it happens.
Alice Lang did some. Well Forged Miniatures, and the last one is OG. I had the list like in Monday. I should probably just read it off like a normal human instead of just trying to remember stuff like a ding dong. Figuratively speaking, Don Sorrento's OG Paintworks, Pepperina Sparkle Gem, Alice Lang, Quarter Paint, and Well Forged Minis,
Nice.
and all my stuff. So
And
I
all your
think
stuff.
they're playing on Saturday. So Friday, the minis for Act Inc. will be in the booth, in the
Nice.
glass case. And I'm going to bring a lot of my stuff, like all the stuff I just painted. The Cobalt Press ones will be there, and my personal PC is going to be there from Ashland's game. I brought
Nice.
him home with me. I'm going to try to
Very
get
cool.
that crawler done, but yeah, it's just a lot.
All right. Joe Baby asked a wonderful question about an hour ago. Redeemed it with the redeem chat. It said, "I would love to paint our minis, but the amount of cost and equipment is very daunting. What stuff would you suggest is the absolute needed for starters?"
Absolute needed. Well, I actually have a get started book that I put together on my beacons.com/magebrush. It's pay what you want, so you can literally download it for free. I don't care. I wanted to put it out for free, and some
What is
painting friends were like,
beacons?
"No,
That is
charge."
one. That is one that I haven't heard of.
It's it's a Linktree competitor.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Beacons,
So
Magebrush. Head there and you can find a
if you
starter
go to
book.
magebrush.com, it's the same thing. But starting, get yourself some inexpensive brushes, game envy. I've also in that book I have everything that has buttons. That it's an interactive PDF, so it can just jump you right to the websites for stuff.
Right.
Um,
Wonderful.
Plastic palette, which you could just use like plastic, like disposable plates.
Yeah.
Some cheap brushes, and then what I would recommend is not buy cheap paint. Go get good paints. I don't care what brand you use, if it's
Right.
going to be Army Painter, Citadel, Vallejo, AK Interactive, get something good. Caveat, if they don't make a starter set, which a lot of them do, like Vallejo has like a 16 box set that's in it linked in the book. Um, get stuff that you need for that specific miniature that you're painting. Just get that stuff.
Right.
And then that's how I built my collection was like I did an owlbear. So I did
You
it
got the
by the
things you
book,
needed
which I
for the
regret
album.
doing. Yeah, so I got the stuff for the owlbear, and then I got the stuff I needed for Umber Hulk, stuff for the specific NPC, whatever. So that way you just slowly build it all up. Because the problem with craft acrylics is they're not a lot of, especially the ones that come out in like a tube. They're like more of like a toothpaste consistency. You have to thin them so much. You're going to spend
Right.
so much time battling getting those thin
Getting
enough,
exactly the
and
right
then
watercolor.
also uh, a lot of art paint pigments are large because they're meant to be on like canvas,
Yeah.
not little details. So sometimes you can lose the details with it as well. So that would be my recommend.
I just suddenly had a
Is
thought. Has anybody done
yeah,
like paint by number minis before? Like, because that's something that
yes.
people get into painting by like actually you get
Wiz
canvas and it's got numbers on it. Did they do that with minis
Wiz
and actually put numbers on them?
WizKids did a paint night box where it was like a monster, a couple of brushes, and then some Vallejo colors. The problem is, I actually did one of these with Ashlyn to teach her how to paint. The problem is those paint pots, at least in my box and hers, were pretty well dried up by the time we
Oh,
opened it up.
oh, guts.
So it's a little, but there are some painters out there like Realm Smith. If you go back to his videos from like 2 years ago, he has step by step painting monsters. Like, these are the colors I'm using. This is the monster I'm painting. And then laying down this color. And then I'm going to lay down this color. And then I'm lay down that color, et cetera, et cetera. So there are people that have videos like that out in the world.
Yeah, like a follow along, but not exactly like a paint by numbers.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I just suddenly was
Yeah.
like, I wonder if you could design an STL so that it had a number on the breastplate and a number on the arm and a number on the face or whatever, that was covered over when you colored it. But like, I don't know, just
Yeah.
because then people can literally just be like three.
I would
This pot says three on it, so I did the thing, like as a way of getting
I
into
would
it.
I wouldn't do it on the actual STL. That's actually kind of a fun idea. The way I would do that, and this is me design brain because I don't want numbers on my thing and making an
Yeah,
extra ridge.
because yeah, that's
But
what I
you
was
could
trying
have
to
a
think. Like, how
correlating
do you get it?
PDF illustration that's
Yes,
like kind of like how the Warhammer one's like, this is part number 27, this is part
yes,
number
right, yeah.
30. They get glued together. Like, do something like that, but have the color chart there. Like, we're gonna do these colors on the pants. We're gonna do these, you know what I mean? In
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
little
yeah. And
write
then you
up.
can
That's
zoom
actually
in on
kind
the
of
PDF
fun.
and see there's a three on the breastplate. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
three is this pot of silver. So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
that could be very useful. I think something like that would definitely be useful for someone like me.
Hmm. I'm writing.
So
Writing
you
that
say
down.
ideas, yeah. I'll get royalties later. So the idea, never. The idea you say then is if you're going to skimp on something for budget reasons, like it's better to skimp on the palettes and the
Brush.
brushes than the color. The paints don't, like, you get
Yeah,
what you pay
just
for with the paints, and it will.
because especially get because there's two different brush types, right? And I go over this in the book thing, but just real quick, you have natural hair, synthetic hairs. Get yourself synthetics. They last longer. They will take more abuse. And you can buy a big pack of them at like Michael's real cheap, at like a zero and then like a number one.
All right.
Um, you know, and then you can get any flat brush for a dry brush, or even go buy one of my favorite dry brushes is actually the Elf contour brush, makeup brush that you can get at Target for like $5. You can get makeup brushes at the dollar store. Um, but
One
until
of
you
the
like
other
learned it.
One of the other things that I find can be daunting about this sort of stuff is the same thing I find daunting about cooking is like there are so many specialized equipments that you're just like you're gonna get some chef's gonna shout at you, why are you using a paring knife to fillet something, and why are you using a cleaver to chop this thing, and you should be using this knife for that, and you should be using that knife for this, and
There's
you're using a
there's
sieve,
so
and you should
much
be using a
crap.
colander, and is there not a lot of that
There's
in painting? Like you're using a flat brush and you should be using a pointy brush, or you should be using this brush or that brush. Or
It's whatever makes you comfortable. I like using, if I'm color blocking large stuff, I will sometimes use a filbert brush just because it's wider. It has a rounded end and is wider, but it's whatever you're comfortable with. I've seen people color block lay down base with the flat top brushes that are used for the old style dry brushing. Then you have dome brush. It's whatever you're comfortable with, man. There's no wrong way to get paint onto a miniature. There are different
if you
things that you should definitely use
if
if
you're
you're
going
trying to
for
do specific things.
if you're going for speed running your minis, just use one of those brushes that are this wide for painting houses. Just use one of those and just and it's done.
You joke, but I actually have a bunch of house paint brushes because I cut the bristles out and I use them as plants.
That's very cool. That's very clever.
But there is a lot of stuff out there that I will say that you don't need to go buy. And 99% of it is made by GW. A lot of their
Right.
stuff, like, a lot of their stuff is just overpriced, man. Like, they want like $60 or some
Yeah.
craziness for clippers. Like, Harbor Freight, $5. They work great. Harbor Freight also has like $4 sculpting tools. Like, airbrush is great, but I would say make sure you really love the hobby before you go buy an airbrush.
Yeah, that's an
Just
expensive.
because
That's that sounds like the ADHD thing of being like, oh my god, I'm gonna get into this thing, and then you buy all the equipment for it, and then it sits in your cupboard doing nothing.
I mean, it's great. I love having an airbrush. I primarily use an airbrush for priming because I
Mm,
just buy a bottle of primer and it'll last me hundreds of times longer than a rattle can would.
yeah.
And I can just do it inside. I don't have to go outside, which was nice living in Philly when I don't have to stand in snow, priming miniatures. But yeah, there's a lot of tools that you don't need. Like you need a cup of water, you need decent little brushes. You can get just some dollar store plastic palettes,
Yeah.
and then don't skimp on the paint because if you're going to fall in love with it, then you don't have to buy your paint over again,
Yeah.
and it's going to be close to the right consistency out of the bottle.
That's good to know. All right, there's your tips. We've got a question from Melville that said, "So, would you recommend for someone? What would you recommend for someone afraid of starting because they're afraid of messing up their mini with the paint?"
Get over it. You can always repaint. You can always start over.
Always
That's
just
the beauty
repaint
of
over
it.
the top
Like,
of it, right?
yeah, you can always prime it and go again. Like I've done that so many times. I literally just said I'm going to do that on the acquisition one. I am not
Yeah.
happy at all with the color choice
Start
on the
again.
gloves and boots, so they're going to get repainted.
Eventually ends up with like big freaking Hulk gloves on because of 7 layers of paint.
They already got giant Hulk gloves. This is the big beefy boy. He's already got big Hulk gloves, so it's not going to. But seriously though, like it's okay to mess up.
Yeah.
I actually don't
It's a
repaint
happy little
stuff.
accident, right?
Well, it's also one of those like if you're starting, it's practice. You're not going to be, like pro athletes and, artists and stuff. Like Mozart wasn't always good.
Mm-hmm.
At some point he was bashing the
Bashing
keys,
keys, yeah.
driving people up the wall. Like, it takes practice to hone skills. So it's okay to repaint. I also think it's very much okay to have miniatures that look gross. Like my gnolls that I did at the very beginning and the skeletons I did at the very beginning are terrible.
Yeah.
And I refuse to repaint them because that's my
That's what
journey
started.
of growth,
Yeah.
right?
I like that.
So like now I can set stuff up over time and see
Show
it.
them all off a little. Just go down the line and be like, "Oh, this is getting better." Yeah, I'd say as well. Like if you're terrified,
I would also start with monsters because they're more
yes,
forgiving with mistakes.
that's what I was going to say. If you're terrified of like messing up your mini, don't start with that mini. Start with something larger, something simpler.
Yeah, yeah. Like if you were like, oh, this is you know, my PC I played for 20 years and I want the paint job to be amazing. That's not your starter mini. Like when I started driving, I got a hoopty when I started driving. That way if I smashed it,
Yeah,
it
if you
didn't
smash it
matter.
up, yeah.
You don't give a kid a Cadillac.
Do you ever start? Do you ever start with a pre-painted mini and then just paint over the top of it to like touch it up? Like, is that a good way to start as well? To be like, oh, this is an okay mini, but it's clearly been painted on a factory line, and I'd like to put a little highlight here and a little whatever.
Yeah, if you that would I haven't done it, but that could be a really cool way to help teach blending because you have to blend into that old color, the original color, and get the new one. If you don't have that color, you need to like practice mixing to get into that color, and then brush control to get that little fine line. So that could be a fun way to help learn a couple different skills. I've never done it, but I'm not going to say don't do it.
Fancy asks, as a short soundbite, I always like to try and take a 1-minute clip from each of these things to put out on YouTube Shorts and whatnot. So under a minute, if ideal. What things would you recommend people focus on getting right when painting as a beginner? What are the first things that you want to focus on getting right?
Focus on getting right. Get paint on the mini. There's no, but seriously, treat each area like I would say treat each area like it's a coloring book. You want to stay in the lines, right?
Right.
So if you have a cloak, stay within a cloak. If you have, a bracer, stay within those lines because staying in those lines, giving you the crisp transitions will help read all the items in the mini much faster.
Wonderful.
So the shorter bite would be learn to stay within the lines, so you can increase the readability of your miniature.
You got it, guys. Stay within the lines. This the thing we teach kids when they're like 3 years old and coloring in a coloring book. It also applies
But I mean,
now.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're doing a bracer, like if you have a hand that is like skin tone hand, and then like I have my watch on, and if I'm painting the watch band and it goes down the arm, it's not gonna look good.
I have noticed that was one of the other things that frustrated me with, the other day when I was painting something medium sized, and I was like, I don't even know, is that part of his armor or is that part of his belt? Is that his belt? I was trying to look for context and be like, I don't even know what that is. Do I just paint it all the same?
To it. Just commit to it and you're good.
Yeah.
Like you can cheat, and if you want a shirt to look wrinkly, you can do a darker tone followed by like a lighter tone, so there's kind of stripes.
Oh wow!
But it would look, but visually from a couple feet away, it'll look like a wrinkle because it'll look like the shadow and highlight of a fold.
That's some good stuff. I like that. All right. I've left the last two questions for last because they were both asking for show and tell, essentially. And since I put this out as a podcast, I didn't want to put everybody off listening and being like, oh, I can't see anything. If you are listening to this on podcast form and you do want to see the minis, then make sure to check out the actual video on my YouTube channel, Robert Hartley GM. So I've got a question that says, if you haven't already, can we see some of your favourite minis? And then the next one leads into that because it goes into more specifics. It says, show and tell me the following minis. 1, the most turtle-like mini you have. 2, the most sparkly mini you have. And 3, the one with the most legs.
The mini, okay, I have a question for the question. Are these miniatures that I have painted? I'm assuming yes.
Yeah,
or
sure.
just in general.
I reckon the ones you've painted. Let's start with those.
Ones I've painted.
Turtle-like, sparkly, and the one with the most legs.
Turtle, sparkly, most legs.
And your favourite, if that's not one of those 3.
And favorite.
Meanwhile,
okay.
I'm gonna find my most turtle-like and sparkly.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to step away for a second.
Let's
think
you
can all still hear
pause
me
while we look for minis. I definitely have some turtles somewhere. I have some turtle people. Where would they be? I think they're in the persons, the human. There they go. I've got turtle people in there. I've actually got 2 different types. I've got a turtle one, and then I've got an actual turtle tortoise one.
For legs.
Tortoise turtle people there.
Turtle tortoise one. I don't think I've even done a turtle tortoise one.
I've made it a race because everything's a competition. I've got 2 different contenders for the tortoise turtle ones. I've got a turtle, which is a person here, look, and a bipedal humanoid turtle man. But then I've actually got an actual turtle, but he's like weaponed up. He's got a backpack on him. He's like a pack horse turtle. Tortoise, I should say. He's not a turtle. Turtles are in the water. Tortoises are in the water.
I don't have anything tortoise-like, and I also can't find... Oh! My favorite mini, I think, is at Ashland's.
Just want to point out that I'm winning then. I'm winning, everybody. Sparkly minis. Oh, sparkly. I've got one in mind. I've got a...
Oh, girl, I got you beat for sparkly.
You got sparkly? I got this guy's pretty sparkly.
I just don't have anything turtle.
Somewhere in here that's a horse. Where's the horse guy? I've got like an astral horse somewhere that I can't find right now, and he's pretty sparkly. Oh, there he is. Found him. Alright, I got 2 contenders for sparkly. Here we go. The first one, let's go with the horse first. This guy is called a Velena horse. I didn't paint any of these, by the way. If you haven't picked up by now during this 2-hour conversation, I'm not a good mini painter. This is a Velena horse. Not with that attitude, you're quite right. I'd definitely give it another go, but like I just don't have the time, man.
Can I pick another animal? I don't have anything tortoise-like.
And then this is... Just pick a reptile. Expand into reptiles in general. Go crocodilian. Got anything crocodilian, snake-like, lizardy? This guy is a little bit more sparkly. He's got these like white dots all over the back. He's a pretty awesome mini. He is a emissary of Perforus. He's pretty cool. Alright, and then what was the last one? Things with most legs. Things with the most legs. I mean, technically, like, how are you defining legs? I got this guy with the mind flayer, and he's got lots of tentacles.
Appendages.
Appendages? tentacly boy there. This guy's
Okay.
probably got the most legs. Here we go. We've got a decapod, I think. He looks like a decapod. We've got this guy, a skittering horror
Ooh.
with 10 legs. Look, 12. 12 legs and then 4 mandibles as well.
Those factory workers did a great job.
Yeah.
Okay, so which out of mine do we want to go first?
All right.
I brought a few out.
Let's go with the reptile tortoise boy.
Reptile tortoise boy. I brought 2 options for that.
All right.
One is this guy.
Oh, is that a wyvern?
Yeah.
Nice.
And I painted him with. This is all dry brushing, believe it or not.
Oh, the whole thing?
Yeah, it's all dry brush.
Damn.
Well, I mean, not the small details like the mouth, but like the
mouth
wings and stuff is
Yeah.
all dry brush.
That's some
So there's
cool.
that guy for
I really like those
reptile.
wings. I really like how they fade to like a light color in the middle of them.
Thanks.
Very cool.
And then this is
Ooh, shit.
another take for a reptile, and also legs. That's
And also
probably
legs.
the most legs.
2 for look. Oh,
Yeah.
I like those
So
fans.
this is a Remoraz
a Remoraz, yeah.
mold from. I'm probably gonna butcher the name, so I really apologize. It's like Yokashi Kyogen Studios. It's a 3D
Nice.
STL, so I printed it. And Ashland's game, before I joined it, we came up with a desert version of the Remoraz. So this is the
Nice.
desert
That's
version of the
cool.
Remoraz.
Yeah, I like it.
I based the paint job off of. I like looking at real nature for things, so I based this off of a actual crocodile or a
Nice, clever.
The smaller guy, caiman.
Yeah.
And then this was actually off of like a lizard that lives in the desert somewhere in
Nice.
the world.
I
forget
love
where.
that. I love that. As soon as you mentioned doing a desert theme for Ashland's game, I'm like, oh yeah, I know which terrain she's using for that. She's got that one that looks like a sandcastle.
This is my other entry for legs.
Oh, nice.
This is also 3D printed.
Do I have that
And
guy?
this is like what I was talking about earlier.
I got a very similar
The
looking guy.
color shift on the
Oh
carapace.
yeah, very metallic blue. That's cool. Is that a you say that's 3D printed? Is it from a what are they
I
called?
bought it off of my mini factory.
Because I've got these guys that were gifted to me from some game. They're not mini. They're not D&D. They're like from some sort of alien game.
Oh.
And they,
Those are Tyranids from Warhammer.
these are
So
Tyranids.
these are
There you go.
these are like this is like Tyranid,
Tyranid
but
adjacent.
not Tyranid.
Yeah.
Like
They're
if it was Reaper, it'd be like clawed alien creature.
yeah, they're the we've got Tyranids at home.
Sparkly Boy, I grabbed this because this is another
shit.
color shift guy. It's a
That's
Nightwalker.
amazing. Oh yeah,
So I did it,
recognize him.
and this is like what I was talking about for like magic, because it's like you can imagine like if you saw this in real life, it'd be kind of fading in and out of the light.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you want from a Nightwalker. They're just kind of in the dark, and they're just sort of moving between them.
And then for my favorite is actually my very first one, but I think he's at Ashland's house because she needed
Guts.
humanoid stuff. So, so I grabbed this guy. He's real cute. I made him on Eldritch Foundry, so that's not an accidental plug, but I guess it is an accidental plug. But so this is like what I was talking about for my homebrew. So fairies in my world are more fairies like Carnival Row, the show on Prime, if you've ever seen it.
No, I haven't.
With Orlando Bloom and stuff. It's pretty cool. So like fairies are more human size
Right.
in that world.
Okay.
So I wanted to do a fairy child as messengers, because back in the day in the States, like Western Union would employ children to be the messengers. Kind of like instead of like a paper route, you could have your messenger route.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, they used to do the
So
same
I
in the
used-
wartime in the UK for like telegram
Yeah.
boys.
Yes, exactly.
I
So
remember
this is
because we did a war themed thing for my grandparents' like 50th wedding anniversary, and I was the telegram boy.
Gotcha. So I made a fairy telegram boy. So I basically went with the halfling ancestry, added like butterfly wings,
Nice.
and painted him up. So this is
Nice.
focus camera.
He's jumping.
It's
He's
not.
face stepping. He's face stepping. Nice.
Is it gonna do the thing?
It's almost doing the thing because your automatic background filter. It's like
Let
I don't
me.
want to
Can I
see
turn it
it.
off?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how to turn it off. Change video background. None. Now you can see my gross living room. Wait, did it
It's
keep?
not. Oh, oh, I'm Andrew Stupid now. I'm a mini painter, everybody. It's what
No, you're
you
not.
turned your.
I'm
You turned.
sorry.
You turned.
I messed this all up.
We're back.
I'm sorry. Okay, so here you go. This is the guy.
Oh, I like that.
So I based it off of like the old timey Western Union thing,
Yeah.
and then I did
Oh,
color
I
shift in
like
the
those
wings,
wings. Jeez, that's
and then
nice wings.
I lined the wings black, so he looks like a little fairy child that delivers the
Yeah.
telegrams.
God, that looks
And
so
one of the
good.
items you can do is like cards, so then I just painted them like a yellow to look like the old telegram paper.
Yeah, paper. That's so
These are
good. I like that a
my
lot.
little fairy telegram boy.
That's so
He came
good.
out real cute. And then
Jeez.
like everybody at the table's like, "Why did you paint him?" I'm like, "Because he was cute. That's why. I need a
why would I
reason.
not?
I'm the DM. That's why."
Yeah, I could have painted him. Wonderful. Well, we're pretty much out of time, unfortunately. We got one more question coming in while we were answering questions.
Yeah.
So, last question
Sorry,
is
it took
from
me a bit
Atea.
to.
Hey, that's all good. Apologies needed. That was a lot of fun. Atea asks, do you use a specific organization system for your minis? And if so, what is it based on? Color, species, preference?
I group them. So I have a IKEA cabinet that I have everything in, and I generally group them by like types. So like I'll keep all like
Yeah.
the Clockwork Warforged
Yeah.
together, and then I'll keep all the, you know, bug type things
Yeah.
together, and I'll keep all like the Fey type people together. I'll do it
Yeah,
like that.
likewise. This
Um,
whole top shelf is my humanoids, ranging from good
yeah,
humanoids to evil humanoids, humans on this side. And then we've got, I've got my otherworldly things, so it starts with Fae in the middle here, then we've got Celestials
yeah.
and evil demons, and then like undead right here. And
It's
then over in
also
this cabinet
size.
is animals and beasts, and then monstrosities, and then whatever else is down there, and then giants down the bottom. So like all the different
Yeah.
types within the game.
So like my top shelf are a lot of the big ones because I can't see the
Yeah, smart. Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's all the big stuff so I can easily see it and grab it.
yeah. Very cool. I do notice that they're just going to collect dust forever if I just leave them like this. So ultimately, what I want to do with all of this is to get some like proper storage that like I can just take to my games whenever I'm like DMing for hire sort of thing. Just put all of my humanoids and the stuff that I don't need to look at every day, and then just keep the ones that are exciting to look at. Like on the top shelf is all my dragons. So like have those
Right.
dragons spread out so that people can just see them visually behind me on camera sort of thing. So I want to do giants and dragons mixed in, and then just take everything else and put it in like a tackle box or something. And
If I had more space, I would definitely organize it a lot more.
yeah,
But
hey,
you know,
it's
we're in an
that's what
apartment.
we get.
I
Yeah,
gotta make
exactly
do
right.
with what I got.
Exactly.
As far as I saw somebody asked real quick, do I have a mini version of myself? I do. I do
You got it
actually.
right.
Um, it's because we made them for our Eldritch Foundry business cards, and
This is the Robert Hartley GM mini. If it's going to focus, you're going to focus.
nice.
Come on. It's not going to focus, but he's holding, I think
So,
Dag made this for me, Dead Aussie Gamer, who's in the chat now.
oh, nice.
Just like a D20 by my feet and holding
Yep.
the DM book in my pen black hoodie.
Yep. Hero Forge color print.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the
so,
color print with Hero Forge, but hey, it's better than having it sitting there unpainted, which it was what it would have been.
mine. So yeah, we did all that for our business cards at Eldritch Foundry. It's not painted yet because we are going to have a guest. I'm not going to reveal all the tea,
Secrets.
but we're going to have it follow Eldritch Foundry on the socials. We're going to have a guest come paint with me, and we're both painting versions of ourselves.
Nice. That's cool.
But mine is basically me with a beard. I tried real hard to get the face to look like me. I have the little like pompadour mohawk thing going on, a hoodie, and you can adjust the arms and stuff. So I move the arms in so it looks like my hands are in my pockets,
In your
and
pockets,
then
nice.
jeans and sneakers. And then one of the things that you can add onto the base is actually, this was not my request. That happened to be a French bulldog. I put the French bulldog on the base, so it's me and my dog.
Fantastic.
So I'm really excited to paint it.
Yeah, that's very cool.
But it's just not painted yet, so I don't want to show it.
We'll get there. Yeah,
because
we'll get there.
It's just black primed.
Hey, you should make sure to take a photo before though, and then put the before and after, because then people are like, "Oh wow, there's a difference there." Because otherwise, they only see the after. They're like, "Oh, that's cool. It's painted." But once they can see how much work has gone into doing so.
I have thought about doing like something for scale, like just show how small these guys are, because some stuff is like big and you can make them look good easy because they're big. But then some guys are
banana for scale.
Yeah, banana for scale. I was thinking about 3D printing like a 1/4-inch cube or something.
Right. Yeah. Joe Baby says, you don't have to tell us who your special guest is at all, but could you describe their mini in great detail?
Bearded, long hair.
Oh, yeah.
They have a dragon. What else did they have? A jacket? I forget what else. So it's a guy with a beard.
Guy with
a beard. That narrows it down.
Yeah. All right, this has been amazing, Andrew. I really got to shoot. Unfortunately, I could talk to you for a lot longer about painting, and maybe I will one day. Maybe I'll actually get around to doing like a painting stream and have you on as a guest or something. Who knows?
I'm probably gonna try to do a painting class at Gen Con, so maybe I'll make you come sit in on it.
Yeah, that could be a very good idea.
Teach you the things.
This has been fantastic. Let people know where you can be found and all of your work.
Everything is on my Instagram. If you go to magebrush.com, it has links for all the things. If you want to get that book I was talking about, again, it's pay what you want. You can download it for free. I don't care. I won't mind. Otherwise, I am primarily on the Instagram. So if anybody has any more questions or suggestions or not suggestions, but recommendations or whatever, hit me up. I'll be more than happy to help as best I can.
Wonderful. And and check out Eldritch Foundry as well, and the Eldritch Foundry booth at PAX Unplugged if you're going to be in and around Philly.
We will be at booth 3459. You heard it here first.
There you go. Excellent. So we're at the end of our short rest. We've finished counting. I've got 732 platinum pieces here. It seems like it's all accounted for. That guy in the corner, that shady guy's iron is up now though, so we should probably finish our drinks and move on back to our quest.
I flashed my dagger but he didn't bite on that.
No, I think he might have some magic or something. He's looking pretty mean. Is there anyone you'd like to raid? I always give it to my guests as the option. If anybody's online that you'd like to send my people to.
None of my people are online right now.
All right, let's choose from some of mine then. Matthew Colville's online with the Just Chatting. We got D20 Deathmatch doing some reruns. We've got some Goodman Games, L2S Entertainment. Let's raid Matthew Colville. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, he has 2 daggers.
Matthew, is it underscore Colville?
Mine's also like a balloon sword, so I think that's also why he didn't bite at it. The twist, I'm a bard.
That would be very funny for a bard. Just make it, clown based, and all of your weapons are balloon weapons.
Like balloon animals.
You attack with them and they pop, but they do like thunder damage. Poof.
Or like I don't think
distract. They don't do any
polymorph, but like you throw a balloon animal, like you make a balloon animal real quick and you throw it and it turns into the actual animal.
It's like as a way of summoning them, yeah. Like it basically reminds me of the Mask, like a Tommy gun, and he whips it and it actually becomes a thing. Very clever. I love that. Let's cancel the raid and stay here for another hour talking about this idea.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, everybody. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. And if you want to support me in ways that doesn't cost you anything, you can tell your friends or colleagues or family or Reddit threads or just post the video somewhere. Thanks.